With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Time once again for Tuesday night GT3s, and we travel from the land of the rising sun into the heart of America and the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for round 3 of your GT3 Fix Series here in the Precision Racing League. Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpotTV. Delighted to have your company on yet another Tuesday night. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, alongside as always one of the voices of the PRL, Joey Teppen. And Joey, we were talking just before we went live. Last week was a bit of a procession, at least to the front of the field. Plenty of action further back, but today is a track where you can pass and where chaos is to be expected.
Yes, we've thrown away the hairpin fest at Motegi, and we've gone to a track where basically every single corner is full commitment, very, very high commitment. You can go down and make a move in turn 10. There's plenty of passing opportunities, but this and Motegi could not be any more different in my mind, and it's one of my personal favorite tracks. I didn't always like it, but then I figured out how to drive it, and it all clicked for me, and now it's one of my favorite tracks on the service, and I'm sure a lot of the drivers in the field tonight agree with me. Drivers always love high-commitment places like this.
And it's a track that will host the iRacing Petit Le Mans, the third of the VCO Grand Slams this coming weekend. Coverage brought to you by RaceSpot in partnership with the team at Radio Show Limited. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we work through the course of this season, but we're going to a track after this that's very different indeed. GT3 cars very much requiring drivers to adapt to the different challenges that the international trip will bring you. After this, of course, a trip to the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, then across the pond to Snetterton to begin a bit of a European swing as well. But it's been a fascinating start to the season as we take a look at the GT3 fixed standings, as Michael Terrafino in his BMW has leapt to the top with a 15-point advantage in front of Brandon Six. But at this point in the championship, let's be real, Joey, it is still anyone's game.
It is anyone's game, and Floyd Kerr down in 8th. We saw him win at Road America after a great drive. He had an equipment failure, a sim racing equipment failure last week at Motegi. His VR was losing frames, I think, and he couldn't drive like that, so he had to take an L there. Michael Terrafino ended up taking the win last week. He's been the most consistent of anybody, and he's ended up in first because of it. Brandon Six as well finished 6th and 7th in the first 2 weeks, and somehow the math has added up, put him second in the championship. So that goes to show you that consistency has been key so far, but as we move on throughout the season, some of these stronger drivers, they're going to move their way up to the top, and we're going to have quite a battle for this championship.
Consistency wins championships. I say it a lot, and I get dinged sometimes for it. Quick look at the team championship, very early stages, but of course this is going to be exciting with the likes of Team Beef keeping it real, 1 and 2 in the championship for the drivers' points, but Vulture Motorsports North lurking behind as well. Let's talk, though, about this track, the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, when Dr. Don Panos thought that he'd bring a taste of Le Mans to Georgia. Little did he know the phenomenon that he'd develop into. And 25 years on, Petit Le Mans is not just a staple in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, but indeed a sacred home for motorsports around the world, cultivated through so much these digital form of video games, but it's got so much elevation change and plenty of passing opportunities. You mentioned high commitment, Joey, but in these GT3 cars, which do have a decent amount of downforce, in this fixed setup competition, I'm interested to see which car will be the most comfortable to drive, because that will be important.
Well, it seems like the trends of the previous races of the season are still true. It's Porsche at the top of the practice sheets right now, and a lot more of them in the top 10. So a car that's been strong on every single type of track is still strong at Road Atlanta. All of those high commitment corners, the tight confines of the S's, you need a car that's competent in both a straight line that has lots of grunt and can also take you through all of these corners with a high enough downforce level to keep you planted, and the Porsche still seems to be the car choice.
Yeah, and I think the BOP is an interesting topic. We'll talk more on that, I think, as we go through the course of these lengthy races. 35 minutes for the GT3 Fixed Series, and then 40 minutes for the GT3 Sprint Series. Before we get going, though, before we take a look at cars on track and we hear the sounds of engines, we thank those that make this possible, including VCO, the virtual competition organization, whether it be from the VCO Pro Sim series, blurring the lines between virtual and reality, or bringing top-level competition across the sim racing universe together in the VCO Esports Racing League. VCO does it all, including with their VCO community, partnering up with the likes of the Precision Racing League, as well as Ivra Esports and the 24-hour Series Esports Championships. You can always find something live on twitch.tv/VCO Esports. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount code using the Precision 5 coupon code. RaceLab helps to improve your driving skills with modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration. You can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Ready to compete against the financial market, supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader offers award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Qualifying here is going to be paramount. Most important, I think, is going to be staying out of trouble at the race start tier, which you descend down 90 feet of elevation change, plunge through the right-hand corner, and get underway. The jeopardy is real.
It is real, and these PRL drivers, they're always good at navigating these first laps. Sometimes when we come to a track like Road Atlanta, with those tight confines, we kind of preview the race and then talk about there's going to be a pileup on lap 1. How do you avoid it? But we're always proven wrong. They're always respectful. They're always leaving each other enough room. And I can't think that'll be any different today. All of these drivers have experience driving Road Atlanta. They probably have PRL experience driving at Road Atlanta. They know the drivers they're racing around, and I can only imagine that we'll be in for a clean start. But it is still a track where you can pass, but it's still difficult to pass, especially where you're deep in the field. So some drivers are going to be getting more aggressive than others, trying to make up spots and taking advantage of other people's mistakes, like Kenny Duval just made here.
Yeah, he made a mistake that I saw this past weekend from a couple of other drivers, as Terrafino is disposed from the top of the board as Espinoza jumps up into first. So the 117.595, Terrafino going slow and setting up for what will be his final lap in qualifying. Sully Saad also up in qualifying right now, down through turn 10, and this is crucial to work your way through to build to yet another qualifying lap.
Up over the top of the hill, Sully's keeping it a little bit further to the right than some other drivers, but he's still able to get through the final corner easily flat out in that Porsche. A lot of downforce, a lot of commitment there. Turn 1, getting all the way to the grass there, almost putting a wheel in there. It's easy to clip that, and then you're getting yourself thrown off the road There's also a very evil curb on the outside of turn 1, but that tends to bite a little bit more in the open wheelers. These GT3 cars tend to be heavy enough to make sure the auto spin there doesn't actually spin you around, but it's still possible. And I don't know what the heck Michael Terrafino's doing here. He's just waiting as long as possible to slow roll this. Hopefully he gets the speed up now. Yeah, now here he comes, eventually.
I was trying to figure out exactly what was going on, but I think we'll jump on board for the lap around the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, on board with this BMW down through the final corner. Not actually the lowest point on the track. It starts through turn 1 though, brake just after the grass ends on your left-hand side, down a gear into 4th and use all the track on offer. Terrafino though goes for a bit of a ride, uses some rallycross style, and that will be his qualifying done. Espinosa now has one rival less to worry about.
There should be enough time for Terrafino to go out again and get one lap in.
But he's used all his lap attempts.
Ah, that is true. That is true. That does not help Michael Terrafino, and yeah, you're right. He will indeed start in the front row, or he might not start in the front row, because I think Rasmussen still has some laps in the tank. Sully Sada has one more lap in the tank here through the final corner. Again, not able to improve. He's been like 1 or 2 tenths short every single time after that first lap.
Oh,
so
it's done.
It's done for Rasmussen, too.
Yep, Twisted Racing number 11 grinds to a halt on that long back straightaway. Here comes Arexoy, who was feisty last week at the Twin Ring Motegi, part of the Vultures Motorsport stable, but no improvement there. Just seems like in the death, maybe track conditions changing and no real improvement at the top of the board. Now, of course, we have 46 cars, so we expect... You said we don't want to hype up chaos, but we do expect plenty of jostling on the opening lap, and I think that will mean that we are going to splinter up as a field pretty quickly on the opening cycle here.
Yeah, that's basically guaranteed to happen, especially when there's somebody going side by side. Maybe the top 10 all figure themselves out through the S's, but there's 11th and 12th going side by side down through the S's. That's going to check everybody up. That's going to cause a little bit of separation, and we saw a lot of trains at Motegi last week. We saw a lot of draft trains. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen again here, but we just have to wait and see, and we have to see how aggressive people are deciding to be on lap 1. Some drivers who are lower than they would probably expect to be in qualifying, like Floyd Kerr, Carollo, for example, look for them to be pretty aggressive on lap 1, but for everybody in the middle of the field, I think it's going to be a lap 1 of just trying to be calm, trying to be careful, and keeping yourself out of the very, very close walls here.
Yeah, it's an old school track in that way. I think for Kerr as well, there's an element of redemption that will come into play today after putting it towards the front, putting it at the front of the field last time out and then retiring in the early stages. This has got to be the round where he turns it around and punches his way back. It's only a 10-round championship, and yes, we've got, drop rounds that play into it, but you don't have much time to slip backwards.
Yeah, you only get to drop 1 round, so Floyd Kerr has basically used his drop week already, unless he somehow has an even worse week than a DNF, which I don't think is physically possible.
Did not start?
That's true, but they both pay 0 points, unfortunately.
Fair.
So Kerr is basically, he's on championship mode for the rest of the season. He cannot afford to have bad results anymore, and when we've got 2 new tracks coming up, one of the new tracks is the season finale, which you literally cannot drop at Rudskogen, so Floyd Kerr's got to be at 100% for the rest of the season here, and he's also got to maximize points.
Rudskogen is tight. I still am curious more what Oschersleben is going to be like with these cars. Slightly bigger, slightly weightier, especially into some of the heavier braking zones. We could be in for some drama. It's a track that is definitely known for bringing some of that. But qualifying will draw to a close. It is going to be Espinosa that by 0.06 of a second will pip the points leader as qualifying draws to a close, but we are ready to go racing here in the heart of Brazelton, Georgia. Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta is a staple around the sim racing world, and today it plays host to round 3 in this 2022 Season 4 Championship. We get a full pace lap, so plenty of time to work through the monster field that is ready to go. Let's go trackside here and run you down through the starting grid. It's the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo SRT Esports 87 that will bring us to the green. A 117.595, good enough for Espinosa to get it to the front row. Terrafino and Team Beef's number 94 will line up alongside with Andrew Rasmussen and Gary Brown, the top 4. 4 different manufacturers represented. Going to be a feisty one there. But then behind them, it's all Porsche on row 3 with Sully Sard inside of Kenny Duval. Andre Bonatti, another one of the Porsches, alongside the second of the BMWs in Earl Arexoy in the 13. We Race Esports, another car inside the top 10 with Rodrigo Morales. Floyd Kerr in his Audi Hardpoint Delta Sport Academy number 68 lines up in 10th position. Jeff Carollo in the Lamborghini lines up inside of another of our Team Beef cars. This time it's a Porsche for Roy Brown. with Michael Kulaga's Ferrari inside of Brandon 6th in the Mercedes. SRT Esports and keeping it real esports on row 8 with 5-5 Motorsports and SRT behind them. It's Chris Colantino and the plaid of Nicholas Karanjus in the 331. That bookend the top 20 with Alex Wright and Eric Kulaga on row 11. John Colombian, that fetching BMW that's managed to do something with the grille that's quite interesting alongside the Cloud Valve Racing North number 6 of Dale Peterson. Greg Doucette, more plaid for the Throttle Thursday, number 85, along with Ryan Chandler on row 13, Steven Martinez and Jeff Costello, 27th and 28th. While rounding out the top 30, it's Matt Scherf and Sean Duhamel with 1.2 splitting those top 30. Really not much between the field. The Privateer 81, red, black, and red. 31 will be in the 31st position with Dave Peterson alongside. 33rd, 34th, Mark Vile and Kenny Rodriguez with Matt Dinsmore in the Mercedes liveried Mercedes along with Baron Glover. Big field will continue scrolling through the names as the field begins to roll, but any surprises as we look through the big grid in qualifying?
I'm pretty surprised to see Dave Peterson that low. He's usually much higher up in qualifying, so keep him on your minds as a driver who's going to move his way through the field. But Andres Espinosa at the head of the field, it's still early in the season, so it's kind of unpredictable. It's hard to predict who's truly going to fight for this championship, but that was kind of a surprise pull for him, his first in the GT3s, and see if he can keep it up.
So, 40% fuel tank restriction, with most of these cars tending to be around 120 liters, the FIA standard fuel tank capacity. It means they'll start with just under 50 liters in the tank for a 35-minute race, therefore likely to expect a pit stop at some point. Track position going to be important, but a track this small, it is going to be one where track position does prove to be vital.
It is vital, and you can make moves. It's a track where there are passing zones. Turn 10 is one of the best passing zones, I think, in any track in the world, but also it's a short lap. Like Arjuna said, there's 46 cars in the field. If you're starting, for example, back where Dave Peterson is, you've got to be making moves all the time because the laps are going to click off extremely quickly, and before you know it, we're going to be something like 35 minutes into this race, and you still have a lot of work to do to keep moving your way through the field. So watch for Dave and that familiar McLaren. I'm always a big fan of neon-colored wheels. Look for that car to hopefully drive its way through the field and hopefully not get cursed by me to get taken out in the S's on lap 1.
The Ferrari is always a fan favorite just because of the fire-breathing nature. Yes, there is plenty of Porsches at the front of the field, but Joey, it is a good sign that we got plenty of the manufacturers represented inside of maybe not the top 10, the top 15 at the very least.
And it was Audi versus Audi domination at Road America, rather, which is much more similar to this track than Motegi was last week. So Rasmussen could have won that race. Look for him in the Audi. Floyd Kerr, who won that race, another Audi. There's 5 or 6 cars that could legitimately win this race, and I couldn't tell you which one's going to be the one at the end.
Look at the cars starting to plunge down through turn 11 under the Fox Factory Bridge to get ready for the first of 2 races at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. We're already ready for Tuesday night GT3s because Espinosa picks up the throttle and leads into turn 1 for the first time in his GT3 career. Terrafino will hold on to second, but already plenty of separation through the field as they climb into turn 3 and in towards the S's, a crucial complex on cold tires. Floyd Kerr holds on to 8th position, able to grab 2 spots in the early stages, but as they climb in towards turn number 5 and avoid using the curb maybe as the tires still build up temperature and pressure, single filing themselves out. It's a good start from Espinosa, but Terrafino's hunting him down.
It's easy to find yourself in a groove in these cars, especially in solo qualifying. You found your one racing groove, and then now that you're in race conditions, you can put yourself a little bit off of that and find yourself just kind of completely out of your depth, and you end up throwing it off the road. But everybody has cycled it out. We're basically in a single file train, about 46 cars back, which is actually very good to see, because that means everybody made it through the S's. But now as everybody separates just a little bit, the battles continue on, and Gary Brown looks to be all over the back of Rasmussen. Terrafino, I'm sure, is going to catch up to Espinosa here soon, but the battle for third looks to be the closest in the train.
Yeah, at least for now, inside of the top 15, not really any moves going on. There has been some separation, 1.5 back to Bob Cohn in the 32. But as we get lap 1 in the books, it's really Floyd Kerr that took the most of that scramble of a start, because Espinosa picked up the throttle before the field had even got to the final corner, and I think it caught quite a few cars out napping. Nick Silver, I think, swapping around with Carl Streikhaus in the number 54 SRT Esports car, and one of the plaid machines very, very tentative on the run into turn 3.
These Throttle Thursday drivers are always very, very careful. They're always making it to the end of the race. So there's a very, very long train here behind the familiar plaid livery, but I don't think he's going to be going anywhere, because those Throttle Thursday drivers, they don't throw it off the road. That's just a fact of Nicholas Karangis and Greg Doucette. They are so consistent. They might not have the pace to continue to move their way forward, but they're going to be holding up this train. And look at a send from Jeff right there in turn 7. Almost got into the side of the Mercedes, but Randy Gross lives another day.
Got some true. That's not just some trouble. That's big trouble for the Audi. The 327 of Dan Fendick also saw that Patrick Cowgan kill, in the 31 went around. So a couple of issues. And now Ryan Luna at the crucial turn 7 in his BMW has more issues side by side at 10, as Gross will get the job done as the Lamborghini of Wright exits stage left through the kiddie litter and now has to watch the rejoin. Crucial point to rejoin the track as they plunge down the hill, and absolute chaos is emerging.
Almost 3 wide through the final corner. Lucky to get away with that. We might not have gotten away with it just yet, because they're still trying to figure everything out here. I think that's Rodrigo Michelin on the inside in the Ferrari trying to back out of things, and it looks like, oh my goodness, we're going side by side. We're having a BMW spin around in turn 1. I don't know how everybody is still pointing straight here. That was chaos through turn 1, and right in the middle of it is Jeff Wright, who somehow recovered.
Now, Jan Khalife loses out to Jeff Fleischman in the 25 as they come in towards the S's. Yeah, it got a little bit hectic there, and now we've already got these cars just inside of the top 40. 25 seconds separated from your race leaders, and if you visualize that on the track map, the leader is already getting ready to dive down onto the brakes into turn 10, with the top 2 breaking away from Rasmussen, who's in somewhat no man's land. The stragglers at the tail end of the leading pack, you'd say, just exiting turn 7.
And that tells us that we're going to be in danger of lap traffic here in about 30 minutes time, or maybe even sooner than that, judging by how Espinosa's literally half a lap behind the 46th place driver right now. We're going to reach lap traffic maybe before the pit cycle even starts, so that's going to be another thing. Another tough thing. Oh, Duval, or yeah, your Exoy's off, and Duval's off ahead of him as well.
Synchronized and compassionate issues there as well. Now
they're both still off.
Yeah, now this is going to compromise them even more, because they've taken the shortcut and now will serve a slowdown penalty down through the S's. Still Rexoy tried to find a moment to get back into the groove, and now will compromise a bunch of cars out of turn 5. We expected chaos. This means something else.
I think we just invented a new layout of Road Atlanta there with Urexo. I think he found the Road Atlanta Rallycross layout. Oh my goodness. Oh, and we're gonna turn people all through the field. That is Bob Cohn that's gone around. Karan just got a little bit of contact there, and Cohn's gonna have to park there and wait for about 40 cars to come by, because that train goes all the way to the back.
Yeah, we got a lot of replays for whenever they'll calm down enough for us to take a look at. It is calming down at the front. Espinosa, Terrafino, 1 second, now splits the 2 of them. For the 2 back to Rasmussen, who has built some separation, at least for the time being. Colantino and Kalaga will battle side by side down the hill, and while the Porsche has the outside initially, as he sweeps down through turn 10A, he chops the nose off of the Ferrari and holds on to what will be 17th spot.
See many a move end at turn 10 there, with the driver who's in Colantonio's position just chopping off the nose and getting themselves spun around. We'll see if the same thing happens into turn 1. He leaves just enough room to the inside, but he's not going to be able to stick to the outside of the Ferrari. Or is he? Kalaga not quite as strong up through the top of the hill as I thought he might be, but eventually he is clear. Colantonio, he's still trying to fight back, but it's hard to go around the outside in any of these S's. It's very much single groove down the hill here. Eventually he just has to back out for the safety of himself, and that's going to help Dale Peterson out very much here, because all 3 of the drivers in front of him have been slowing each other down, and he's going to make that a 4-car battle for about 17th. Oh!
Kenny Duval stricken, and Nats Karangis is run wide, and more contact as Colantonio comes through. Finally, Duval able to get off the racetrack, but the damage has been done, and out of turn 7, they're still trying to sort this one out. Not even 7 minutes done in this race, and we have more replays than we know what to do with.
And Colantonio is going to be crabbing all the way down the straight here. I'm surprised that car is still actually rolling, but we'll have to see what happened to Kenny Duval there. He was trying to get out of the way, I think, but in the process of doing that, he made things a little bit worse for Chris Colantonio, and Karan just ended up at the back of the field, and this is just very, very tight stuff. If I was Chris, I'd just be rally crossing it here and cutting the track completely because he's holding up Karanges again here.
He's trying his best, but we'll talk about this pit entry as well, because I think this will give us the best indication of just how tricky it is with the damage on his car. That outgoing Porsche 911 GT3R will return to pit lane along with Karan, just 1.8 at the front of the field. Andres Espinosa has not just turned the wick up, but has sent all the horses in that Ferrari up as fast as they can go, because he is really starting to pull away, as now Rasmussen has an issue out of turn 7.
Everything's going wrong here 8 minutes into this race. Road Atlanta proving very, very difficult with all these fixed setups. An Audi's gone around, a Porsche's gone around. It's been every car, so nobody's been able to escape all the trouble. But turn 7 has been a really, really tough spot. It's very easy to just go a little bit wide through the first half, and turn 6, clip the grass, and then you can't stop the car when your car's on 2 different coefficients of friction there. But we'll have to wait for the big replay spool to see if that's exactly what happened to Rasmussen. But here we go. Here comes the spool. This is the first one with Cowgill and Luna. And, yeah, they just fought over turn 1 there for literally, I think, last on track.
Yeah, you say spool, and there's quite a lot of it. So already there was damage on Fendik's Audi as he runs through the corner here. And just turn 5, I did mention cold tire pressures. Your car's a little bit lower. You never know how exactly it's going to respond. Then Ryan Luna got in on the fun just a little bit later, and through turn 7, we saw the aftermath of this one. Over-rotated the car, and again, cold tires. And then it was into the chicane when all hell really broke loose. The Lamborghini shoved out wide. Not much he could do if we're being completely fair. And as a Mercedes almost looped it on the power, the rejoin sent them 3, sometimes 4 wide.
I think that was one of our Chandlers in the Mercedes that lost it a little bit, and there was that train there, just checked everything up. You can see the Michelin moment right up ahead at the head of your screen. They almost went 3 wide to turn 1. That's never good. And here's what happened to Urexoy and Duval. Duval ahead makes a mistake. Urexoy kind of target fixates on him and does exactly the same thing. I think Kenny was able to rejoin eventually, but Errol, in trying to get out of the way, just invented his own track here. Eventually was able to rejoin at turn 5, but he had a tough go with things. Kenny Duval was able to rejoin at the head of your screen after losing a couple positions, but Errol just kept making it worse, and now he finally recovered.
I tell you what, we'll turn our attention away from that for a moment, because Floyd Kerr is already up 5 positions. Make that 6, because he rips 4th away from the Porsche of Sully Saad as they start to climb up in towards turn 3. That Audi is looking feisty. Yes, he's 6.5 seconds away from your race leader, but don't count him out, as I think Roy Brown in the 313 might have had an issue of his own, because he's down to 8th.
It's been a great drive for Kerr. He started, what, 11th? So that's 7th. Oh, well, I shouldn't even said that. I don't think he hit the wall, but he is going to lose that spot to Sully Saad again. Going to have to remake that one, but still, he's up 6 spots in this race. Now it's an 8-second gap he has to make up instead of a 6.5-second gap, but I wouldn't count him out. Floyd Kerr has some great race pace right now, and he's got a lot of ground to make up, but he also has 25 minutes to do it, so we'll have to wait and see.
And then this was the moment for Bob Cohn where, to be fair to the others, he does try and pinch, but I think just overall you could tell at that point that the tempers had truly flared for most of the field. And then let's check out what happened to Kenny Duval, because as they work towards turn 6, it looks nice and tight. He cambered in corner. He just carries too much speed. The rear end steps out on him, and this is where just there's no good decision to be made, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the only good decision there is to press escape, unfortunately, and that's what Kenny did eventually, but you don't want to press escape. You want to rejoin, and there's just too many cars coming. Karan just nowhere to go. Colantonio nowhere to go. It was the tiniest of hits for Colantonio, but that just absolutely destroyed that Porsche. It's like it ripped half the suspension off of it. He's lucky he was able to bring it back down to the pits there, because that thing is crabbing incredibly. And this is Rasmussen. He didn't even get in the grass. He barely clipped the curb and just got a little wiggle on. It was a great save, but unfortunately that was him 5 spots down from where he was before then.
Oh, and another send, and again, it's just 2 wheels in the grass, and it hooks you. It really does, and it's a good job that Roy Brown was able to hold on there. Quick look at what happened to Floyd Kerr once more, and you just It's lucky. I thought, oh, we're going to have another look at that one on board because there's no way that he got away without a little bit of damage. But you have a little bit more leeway when the tires are up to pressure. But he hits the wall without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, a little bit of a clip, I think, on the rear end there. Let's watch it from the helicopter view. Just gets a little bit bouncy. Can't turn the car when the wheels aren't on the ground. And yeah, there's definitely a hit to the side there. He's lucky he wasn't driving Chris Colantonio's Porsche because he would have been crabbing his way home. But the Audi apparently built stronger. It's just built different. And now he's got to have some deja vu here and go for exactly the same move on Sully Saad that he made a couple laps ago.
He did make the contact quite square to the wall, if you know what I mean, as we get our first dive into pit lane, and it's the 54 SRC Esports Porsche 911. Now, this is quite early. It'll be interesting where he feeds out relative to everyone else, and you can see as the last of the runners basically comes in towards turn 10. It might actually be a very nice call. We'll get an indication of what pit lane times are going to be.
Watching Kyle strike cars, it always seems way longer when you're sitting in the car than it actually does when you're looking at it. But 14 seconds, 15 seconds, yeah, it's 17 seconds. It felt pretty long, but Road Atlanta's a pretty fuel-heavy track. It consumes a lot of fuel, but yeah, 17 seconds, that does seem longer than normal. I would expect maybe 10 or 11 at most, and it's been a bad day to be a Clow Valve car, by the way. The 77's out now.
To some degree, it feels like it's a bad day to just be a car because we have seen plenty of cars around. And I am going to throw this one on you because Dave Peterson has had an issue. So you've been talking about him coming up through the field. Commentators cursed. Lewis McClay doesn't believe in it, but I'm definitely not blaming that Ferrari. I'm blaming Joey.
Yeah, Dave just got forced out there. Oh my goodness, that's what happened to Mark File up ahead. I think that was the Porsche that we saw coming into the pits, and Dave Peterson trying to avoid that carnage just goes for Errol Urexoy's layout. But yeah, the 53 there, Steven Martinez elects to force Dave Peterson off the road there, and now Dave has to basically do all the work he had to do before. And there's Mark File losing it. He clipped the grass on the entries.
He got helped by a teammate as well, didn't he? To be fair, the teammate couldn't do much. We'll go have another look at it and we'll jump on board, because I think this will be a great vantage point from which to ride, because he was already on the grass. Yeah, a little bit just of one of those situations where no one's going to win.
And Mark File was the 77, by the way, so I misidentified our Clow Valve cars. So both of them were involved. So it gets even worse.
Oh, okay. Oh, side by side, down through the S's. Oh, that's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah, it gets even worse. I shouldn't have even said anything. It's getting even worse for Clow Valve with every single replay we show. This is Mark File in that 77 side by side, and yeah, side by side through the S is always tough. You can do it, but it did not work out for File there, and that's two big hits to a Porsche that's been easy to crunkle and damage today.
True, yeah, that is. It has actually damaged quite easily. We take a look at the battle inside of the top 20, which very much is hotting up. It's stretched out big time at the front with the top four already split by 10 full seconds. Espinosa is on a mission here, but Terrafino is keeping him honest in that battle. Ferrari versus BMW. Only 2.2 seconds the gap with less than 20 minutes to play, Joey. Through the S's again. 17th on back with Brandon 6 leading them. Jeff Costello then directly behind. You set to handle the rest of the top 20. If you're a leader, Joey, how do you approach this phase of the race, especially when it comes to the traffic that's stretching out now behind you? 46 started, we're down to 42 still running.
As always, I'm just waiting until the hard end of the fuel tank. I'm waiting until I literally have one lap of fuel left in the tank. Then I'm going to decide to come in, because there's no real point in coming in earlier. If you're Espinosa, if you're Terrafino, if you're Gary Brown, there's no gain that's going to come there because you're going to be in traffic, guaranteed. You can see the spread on the ticker on your screen. It goes down to just about a minute back. So there's no gap. There's no gap 40 seconds back. There's no gap 30 seconds back. There's no gap 50 seconds back. Every single possible gap is occupied by a car and that's a car that's going to be holding you up. But Brandon 6 here is going to get out of the train. He's going to be the first driver to come down. He's in luck because he was in the 20s, the 30s range, so he will find a gap at the back of the field, but the drivers up front certainly will not.
Yeah, it's all about knowing what the delta is going to be, and more importantly, whether you're going to be able to get in and out of it on time. So still looking back in the pack, just because at the front it is very much a procession like it was last week to a certain degree. We ride on board with one of the two Chandlers. We always watch for these little battles between the battles. Ryan Chandler in front of Regan Chandler, 25th versus 27th.
We got Alex right in the middle of the Chandler sandwich there. Mercedes of Ryan seems to be doing a little bit better this week than the BMW of Regan. He's going to take a little bit of a break down the straight here, but see if he has any straight line speed on this Porsche. It's a fixed series, so you can't really opt for a lower downforce setup to take advantage of this straight here, or take a higher downforce setup to take advantage of the corners. It's down to whatever iRacing is giving you on this fixed setup, and the Mercedes does not seem to be especially quick in a straight line. He's later on the brakes, but he's a little bit too late in the brakes. He's almost going to throw it off the road. Wright's going to get by, and here comes Regan to the back. Chandler versus Chandler. Is he going to let him by, or is Regan going to back out of it?
I think coming to pit lane.
Where did the Mercedes go? Yep, that's where he went. That's where he disappeared to.
Yep, tricky pit entry, but nicely executed there, as I think we've had a couple more cars off the track. It does seem as though that's a popular thing to do today, as that's the Mercedes of Randy Gross, top of turn 3, that's still struggling to pick up speed and find a gap on track. He will finally be able to do so, but you have to assume that was assisted at least to some degree. So there you can see the extent to which traffic is going to play its part, because front of the field it already very much is an issue. Joey, we take a look at the replay. What happens here?
Turn 5, or side by side here, actually. That's the 22 from Cloud Valve. Oh, that is just a little bit of a lazy collision. Porsche on BMW violence down there in turn 10, and yet again, it has been a terrible day to be a Cloud Valve racing driver. Jad Khalif now is the next driver to come afoul of the bad luck there. And Randy Gross just throws it off the road in turn 1. That grass, it lures you in. You want to take as much speed as possible through turn 1. And unfortunately, there's a little bit too much, and that's not Bonatti, that's his teammate. Rodrigo Morales is around.
Yeah, rear engine car, remember, so weight transfer so important as you climb up the hill, and still struggling to turn it around. Has gone from inside of what the top 5 or something like that, given how things are playing out, will drop down very significantly. It's a tricky little track, Joey, and many of these drivers are feeling that one, and as the likes of Matt Dinsmore, Martinez, and even Rasmussen make their cycle of pit stops happen, Andres Espinosa works his way past some traffic, and with about 15 minutes left to go, the gap between Terrafino holding steady at 2 full seconds.
Now Terrafino's going to have to navigate through the same lapped car that Espinosa did, so Espinosa's in the clear here. He'll maybe be able to extend just a little bit, but Terrafino, he's been losing time to Espinosa, and now he's going to come into the pits right as I say that, but he's a driver who might be able to turn it on at the end of the race. Espinosa has been doing fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap to kick off this race. It's only 35 laps. The tire fall off in these cars is not going to be very great over the course of 35 minutes, but I'm still not counting out Michael Terrafino to go to a charge to the front a little bit later on in this race, because Espinosa's been pushing pretty hard, and we'll see if he's actually been able to save while doing that.
Very different concepts, of course. The Ferrari versus the BMW. BMW, one of the longest, if not the longest, active GT3 car today, longer than the Bentley Continental. Ferrari, of course, mid-engine to the front engine BMW. Both, of course, turbocharged, but 3.9-liter V8 versus 3-liter straight 6 in that BMW. Terrafino, nice and tidy in the pit stop cycle. 13.4 seconds. That seems a little bit more like what we were expecting down on the lane.
And he has found his gap. That's the bonus of waiting this long. About half the field has already come in. All the drivers who would have ended up in traffic behind have come down to the pits. There's still a few drivers up ahead. The 2 Kalagas are about 5 seconds ahead, but he won't catch them under green. They'll have to come down pit road before he even thinks about catching them. And here comes Espinosa. He wants to try and cover it off either way. He can see the traffic in front of him. We'll see. He had a 2-second gap back to Terrafino before he came in. It's just got to be completely normal here in the pit stop, basically, and he'll still have a comfortable lead, but sometimes that's easier said than done.
Yeah, 2 seconds the gap, again, entering the cycle, but what will the undercut do as the Team Beef racing car dives downhill into 10? Espinosa, after putting on pole in the GT3s for the very first time, rolls to pit lane. 6 seconds and counting as Brown into his stall behind him as well, and down out of 12 comes the BMW, already up to pace. Almost 14 seconds, and it's a short run to release yourself off the limiter, but it's going to be closer than I think Espinosa would have wanted, because here comes the BMW on the charge, and the gap is shrunk down to just about 9/10 of a second.
And there were only 2/10 of difference in total on pit lane there, so I think what really made the difference was Terrafino under braking coming into that pit entry. It's a difficult pit entry. You need to practice it. It's a place where you can really take advantage of things. And I think Terrafino, frankly, just did a better job of that. And now he's on a little bit warmer tires. Espinosa didn't change tires, of course, but he was parked in his pit stall for a little while. So he's trying to recover himself. He's on his outlap right now. Terrafino's going full steam ahead. He lost touch with him on the first stint, so if he's going to make the move, I think he's got to make it quickly.
That's a damaged Porsche with the Meguiar's signage on the right-hand side dinged up, and surely dropped it on power down out of turn 10. Maybe even getting into the grass a little bit, but it hopefully will clear itself before your net race leaders work their way through, because while Nick Silver is yet to dive down to pit lane, he'll lead a couple of laps here, continues to extend this stint until now, because on cue, basically to prove me wrong, he gets onto the limiter, dives to the lane. Espinosa in front of Terrafino, and the gap that it held at 2 seconds, now down at half a second. Terrafino should take his time here, because with 12 minutes to go, he can finally up close figure out where Espinosa is slowest and where his BMW will find just a little bit more speed.
And he can try and force Espinosa into a mistake. When he was about 2 seconds back and the gap was expanding by like a 10th per lap, when you're the driver in the lead, that's exactly what you want to see. You want to see the guy just slowly inching back. You can just run your own race. You don't even have to worry about anybody contending with you. Now he can't do that. Terrafino is within touching distance. Even if he does lose little by little per lap, if you're looking at your relative and you see a 0 in front of that number, it's always going to set you off your game a little bit unless you're really mentally strong here. And that's what Espinosa needs to be right now, at least. But there's also lap traffic coming up ahead. There's 11 minutes to go. They're in little one-car pellets here, so they'll be easy to pass. The drivers will be respectful, but still, it's going to be a lot tougher than Espinosa was hoping.
So the run out of turn 7 to the braking zone of 10 is around 1.2 kilometers. So that exit out of the corner that is more than 90 degrees is crucial. Ferrari may be known for being a bit more lackadaisical in some of the rev ranges. If you find yourself out of them, is that Ferrari going to struggle? A BMW a bit more brutish and going to struggle to turn in initially, but once you get on the power, will it charge through the gears a little bit more? Traffic out of pit lane might prove crucial and put some separation, but the Audi will get on the anchors, and Terrafino will be very relieved to see that one happen, that is for sure. Checking behind on the braking zone into turn 10. Kalaga holds on to 11th with another Kalaga behind in 13th. Bit of a sandwich forming here.
Kyle Strykar's in the middle of it in the Porsche. That's the car that we thought was going to be strongest tonight, and the strongest Porsche is currently in 3rd. There's only 3 of them in the top 10. They're 3rd, 5th, and 7th with Saad, Bonatti, and Brown. So not a good day to be a Porsche in the fixed series at the very least. Strykar's trying to find a way past that Ferrari, but Michael Kalaga has been very, very consistent tonight. Looking at his lap times, he's not had any peaks and valleys, really. He's been running a completely clean race. He's just been looking forward, running his own race, and even with Strykar's behind him, who we know is going to be aggressive, we know he's going to want to make the move, it's still been a pretty solid race for Kalaga, and one more mistake from a driver in the top 10, and he'll be the next driver in the top 10.
Yeah, plenty still to fight for, that is for sure. So holds it half a second at the front. Meanwhile, Rasmussen tries to regain a spot in the top 5 as he gets past Bonatti. Nice and tidy Audi versus Porsche, not much fighting there, and now Rasmussen finds 1.7 in front of him, but it's not done just yet. Bonatti with a wonderful exit to the corner and clears himself before they even get to turn 12.
Just a little bit of oversteer from that Audi up over the top of the hill, and that's all Bonatti needed to get back, but Rasmussen, I have to imagine, will be able to make that move again. He's just got to make sure he doesn't lose it again. Making that same move. We're going to ride on board with him. Looking from the head of this Porsche, the Twisted Racing Porsche. Up ahead of these two is Rasmussen's old sparring partner, Floyd Kerr from Road America at Week 1. The driver who he could have beat for the win was one corner away from that win. So I'm sure he's got a little bit of extra motivation to get up there and pass Floyd as well. But it's not been a great run through the S's. I think he's just trying to recover, maybe try and cool those tires down a little bit after getting that little bit of oversteer, a little bit of slidiness. But he's got one long straight to cool those tires down, and then he's got to get back on the attack.
Front of the field, it's up to 1.2. We saw this at the start. Espinosa just seems to have a little bit more pace, and using it now. Peterson hard into the wall, surely on the outside of turn number 1. Has he taken anyone with him? But that McLaren is surely done for the day.
And the Inter-D Peterson battle is going to be won by Dale Peterson again. It seems like only one of them can survive every week. And oh, Jeff Wright on the inside. It's a difficult angle, but they tried to go side by side. Let's watch it from this perspective. Jeff Wright in that purple Porsche. The McLaren of Dave Peterson. Wright peeks out very, very, very late. Yeah, that's on Jeff. There was not a gap there.
I didn't realize that a Lamborghini had suddenly become a Porsche.
That's true. That's true.
I just had to. I had to throw you under the bus. 1.4 now in building, continuing to grow. Duhamel drops down to 18th behind Gary Brown. It is proving to be quite hectic because you have had a number of cars with issues in the last couple of moments, so we have plenty of things to go and talk about. But at the front, it is now Espinosa that continues to build and assert dominance. It started in qualifying. He ran away at the start, and while Terrafino tried the undercut, it's not going to stick. Espinosa is just looking untouchable.
And there's been none of that fall off. There's been none of that switch around that I thought might happen. Espinosa is just dominant here tonight. He's faster than anybody else, and he's running away with this lead. Nobody can touch him after putting it on pole there. And all he's got to really do here, I think, is run 6 or 7 more clean laps, because he clearly has the pace advantage over Terrafino. That's a great bit of confidence that you can have as a driver when you're just running your own race. You don't have to turn it up at all. You can just make it to the end, and you're probably going to win this race. But again, that's harder to do at Road Atlanta than it seems. You can make that mistake when you get in your own head. When you get content like that, that's when you can just throw it off the road. But he's still extending that gap down through the S's. That last lap, he was 0.2 faster through the S's this time. He's pulled like 3 or 4 tenths here, maybe even half a second as Terrafino goes wide there. Espinosa's in complete control.
Terrafino's pushing. We'll give him that one. Check in with the battle for 19th with Kenny Rodriguez in front of Steven Martinez. Both cars in the top 20 with Columbia and Cone behind them, with Cone trying to recover after his moment earlier on. Pick up one of the moments we were referring to here as we work through the cambered in turn 6 and dive to the quite sharp turn 7. The Throttle Thursday BMW. Oh boy. Yeah. Can we get the circus music going on right now, because that poor 85 machine had absolutely no control. Greg Doucette then does the right thing and patiently waits to try and find an opportunity to rejoin.
And then there's his old buddy Rodrigo trying to get by, and you know Greg was kind to everybody else getting by. I think he was going to be like, you know, you had took me off here. I'm not going to let you get by here. But eventually, I think that he thought that car was too damaged to recover, and he brought it back to the pits. But bad luck for Greg Doucette, a driver who always finishes races except when he's getting taken out by other drivers. It's basically a guarantee that when you see Doucette crash, it's not usually his fault, unfortunately.
I don't even know what to say to that one. Finishes races well unless he's crashing. Yes, Captain,
yes.
Obvious. Down into turn 10. I asked for Joey. I'm getting the full Joey treatment. Great braking performance from that Mercedes. It's 2 Ferraris that go side by side. Mercedes overcooks it, and taking the cake goes Steven Martinez into 19th spot. Ferrari sweeps around the outside as well. Plenty of fighting down the hill.
And somehow they always manage to resolve it. They always manage to find their way single file again. But, oh dear, I think that's Fleischmann. That's a lapped car, so that explains why he's getting out of the way there. So yeah, he backs out of that single file down through the final corner, and the battle continues with Rodriguez and Martinez. It's just been separated a little bit because they found one of those many lapped cars. Fleischmann's not the only one. It's been a race of attrition just a little bit. There's still some drivers on track trying to recover, even though they are multiple laps down. And you've got to navigate those in places where there's basically only one groove and it's impossible to get out of the way.
They're running out of time, though, because clock approaching, 4 minutes left to play in this one. Another issue, again for one of the Cloud Vulture machines, and it's again through turn 1, and Khalife will lose out to teammate Baron Glover, but yeah, I think we're seeing just how treacherous a place this can be. Espinosa has lost a ton of time in traffic. Here comes Terrafino with maybe 3 laps to go.
I think that's Thomas Amos in the BMW who caused that big checkup. They're clear of him now. So that's going to be a little bit of solace for Espinosa, but the gap was basically cut in half just by one lapped car there. Terrafino's within touching distance again. He wasn't able to do anything last time he was here, but there's 3 minutes to go. Can he flip an extra switch in that BMW to actually bring this down and force Espinosa into a mistake? I don't know. The lapped car wasn't able to force Espinosa into a mistake. It just slowed him down a little bit, and now he's rock solid again.
But these are opportunities. About 2 seconds lost this lap, and Terrafino, you know, I want to hype it up and say, you know, he'll try and go for it, but I go back to my constant refrain. Consistency wins championships. Floyd Kerr looking to bounce back after missing out last week. Only 8 tenths away from Sully Saad in that final step of the podium. Kerr's already made up 6 positions, 1 more, and he'll get back onto that podium, but running out of time, but we know that he's got the pace.
As a wise man once said, consistency wins championships, and if Floyd Kerr can get up onto the podium here, even with his technical failure last week, that's still a first and a third in the first 3 races of the season. Somebody's around in the wall there. I think that might have been... Yeah, Baron Glover, he's a lap down. Nobody cares right now. But Floyd Kerr is pushing forward here. He's made the move on Sully Saad before. He can do this. He just only has 2 more laps to do it, and there's a limited amount of opportunities for him to be able to do this. I think he can get it done. I think he has the pace. But he's got to time it perfectly, and he's got to be perfect for these next 2 laps.
Like you said, he can do it, but will he have time? 2 minutes to go means likely 2 laps to go for your leaders next time they cross the line. Ryan Chandler and Glenn Vanko will fight down the hill out of turn 11. Nice and tidy amongst them for the time being as they single file it out with Alex Wright leading in 25th. It will be Rodrigo Michelin who will have a look to the inside into turn 1. That was always looking a little bit optimistic, but it will be 2 laps to go then as Espinosa has been unable to break away. 6 tenths the gap for the lead.
It's come down again. It's come way down again. Terrafino's brought that down by like half. He's brought it down by 5 tenths of a second. He is to the back of Espinosa. Is Espinosa trying to back it off a little bit? Has he put too little fuel in the car somehow? I don't see how that would be possible, considering he was in the box for longer than Terrafino was. And there goes Michelin. Oh, that's Terrafino!
Terrafino runs into the 81. Rodrigo Michelin stricken down through the S's, and Michael Terrafino, the points leader, has got big damage on his BMW.
And that is very, very big damage. He's going to try and get it back on the track, but that is worse crabbing than Cole Antonio earlier. He's not even going to be able to make it back to the pits, I don't think, without taking anybody out. And yeah, he's got a tow. That is terrible luck for Terrafino. Michelin and a few others just completely broadside across the S's. There was nowhere he could go. I don't know how Espinosa made it through, but we're going to have to watch how he got lucky and Terrafino didn't.
We'll grab a look at that, but I'm trying to just pick up the pieces. Floyd Kerr is in second, Benatti third. Saad drops out of the podium completely for the time being. Drama, but that's been the tale here today. A quick look down the hill, and it starts with Wright, who's been involved in his fair share of issues. To be fair, this was not really his fault. McLean gets an initial first big hit. Not much he could do. I think it's Matt Dinsmore that's the one that runs into him. Let's just stick with him for a moment because, yeah, I just wanted to see that for a moment.
Dinsmore backed out onto the track. We'll watch Terrafino and Espinosa come here, but you'll see Dinsmore, he's in a safe place off there, and then he backs out into the middle of the racing line. Espinosa makes it through on the grass, but Dinsmore makes a chicane. He makes a new chicane.
Unacceptable. We have this thing called the F3 box in iRacing. It is quite magical. It's meant to avoid moments like this because Rallycross works for Espinosa, but poor Terrafino just had no time to react. And while for Espinosa he will round out of turn 7 knowing that he got the job done with his pace, disappointment for that BMW.
And I'm sure there will be a penalty coming for Matt Dinsmore. That's as easy of a penalty as I think you can get. He just backed it off onto the racing line, but Espinosa, I think, was going to win this race either way. The real conversation is Terrafino losing out on all those points for second. But Espinosa was just completely in control tonight, completely dominant.
Well, it was the first GT3 pole for Espinosa after a previous pole in the Formula 3s, and a dominant display followed after that. The Ferrari prances its way to the PRL victory lane. Andres Espinosa wins at Road Atlanta.
Another driver taking advantage of all that calamity. Floyd Kerr is going to get second out of all of it. Rasmussen somehow is going to get fourth out of all of it. Well, make that fifth. Oh, not quite. He did get fourth of the line. and Bonatti on the podium as well. It's more luck than consistency today with some of the stuff that happened, but still, Kerr and Rasmussen, 2nd and 4th.
Sully Saad 100% I think was short on fuel at the end of this race because he put in 11.9 seconds during the stop. Espinosa 13.8, and Espinosa pitted a lap after Sully Saad, so I think the Porsche confirming that because he's already towed back to pit lane while everyone returns under their own power. Well, a dramatic way to start off Tuesday night GT3s here in Georgia.
Very, very dramatic. Dramatic in ways we don't always want. I could go for dramatic like at Road America, where we had a nice clean finish to the end, but we got the deserved winner in this race, and Michael Terrafino will be back next week after winning. Jeff Wright in his Porsche Berghini was able to finish there, and the rest of the field's going to cycle on through as well. Still a good amount of drivers on the lead lap. With the attrition we had 46 cars in the field. Still, 28 of them on the lead lap. That's a pretty big number.
It could have been a lot worse, is what you're trying to say. I'm picking up what you are putting down, although if we're in for this sort of chaos in the sprint series later on tonight, we're going to leave here very, very tired and needing a good old break for some racing, that is for sure. It will be celebrations for Andres Espinosa, though. The Ferrari proving strong here today, and indeed a mix of manufacturers may be indicating we're in for a treat in just a couple of moments' time. Take a look at the race results after 35 minutes of racing, though, and confirm that 9 seconds clear of the field. It's pole to victory for Andres Espinosa in the SRT Esports Black number 87 Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. Floyd Kerr charges up through the field, started in 10th, up to 2nd at the end of the day. And after the technical issue 7 days ago, that will be a feel-good moment for the 68 HP DS Academy machine. Andre Benatti snags the final step on the podium while Andrew Rasmussen recovers after being involved in some shenanigans at the start. Sully Saad brings home the top 5 with Roy Brown, Jeff Carollo, Errol Arexoy, after navigating and building his own course up on the outside of turn 3. Still able to hold on to 8th spot where he started. Nick Silver and Michael Kalaga bring up the rest of the top 10. It'll be the SRT Esports Black Carl Streetcar number 54 that finishes in 11th in front of Eric Kulaga's Lamborghini, with Gary Brown and the Vulture Motorsports North sister car behind. Brandon Six in the number 4 Mercedes finishes behind them while making up 13 positions. Jeff Costello rises up in the Crashing Cowboys Porsche to 15th. Dale Peterson in the Ferrari, that doesn't seem right, in 16th spot with Kenny Rodriguez, Steven Martinez, Sean Duhamel and Regan Chandler through the top 20. We will cycle through the rest of the names here and just look through some of those that were not so lucky, because 29th on back find themselves 1 lap down and 46 started. There are a lot that Joey struggled here today.
A lot that struggled, and Road Atlanta always bites. There's no margin for error. There's some grass, and that's about it. There's some concrete walls, and one mistake at Road Atlanta, and you're getting bit for it. We go to Laguna Seca next week, which is exactly the same way, so for some of these drivers who weren't able to make it to the end, I would prescribe an extra amount of practice at Laguna Seca, and hopefully everybody makes it to the corkscrew next week.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that race very briefly before we look forward to what's coming up next. Again, October 4th at 8:20 p.m. Eastern from the Jewel Lakes WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. We're heading to the Best Coast and to a track just about 90 minutes south of me. So much elevation change, and of course, so much is made of the fearsome corkscrew, but it's not the most fun and interesting corner on the track, Joey. It is turn 6, the crucial left-hander right before it.
If that's your idea of fun, I don't know about that idea of fun. That's my least favorite corner on the track because I screw it up every single time. It's so difficult to nail that run up into the corkscrew, and you need to, because that's one of the best passing opportunities on the track. But Laguna Seca, extremely difficult track, extremely difficult to pass, but when you do pass, it's extremely rewarding, and we're going to put 46 cars on it again. We're guaranteed to see some action.
Oh boy, I haven't even thought about what that's going to be. And something interesting I've just correlated as well. The IMSA Esports Global Championship that VCO is powering and will get underway in a couple of weeks' time. First round from this, where we're racing today, not Laguna Seca, the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and then 7 days after that on October 23rd. Same day as the US Grand Prix, the second round of the championship heads to Laguna Seca. It's a staple of the IMSA Championships, and so we are delighted to be heading there as well. Quick look at the championship overall, though, as you get set to switch gears to the GT3 Sprint Series, Joey, which of course is open setup, a 5-minute longer race, and potentially a little bit more dramatic at times. But after Laguna Seca, it's a European swing, and most crucially, like you point out, 2 new tracks, one of them being the season finale, which cannot be used as a drop round.
It cannot be used as a drop round, so hopefully you've bought, well, you wouldn't have to buy Ritskoken. It's a free track. I forgot about that. But hopefully you've bought Oschersleben. Hopefully you've got Coda, Suzuka, and Barcelona, and Snetterton in your iRacing catalog here, and those are all going to be good races. Those are going to be chaotic.
Well, unlike last week, I am delighted to say that we will be joined by our podium. We'll start with the race winner who's standing by with Joey Tebben. Let's chat with the Ferrari 87, Andres Espinosa.
Well, how's it going, guys?
I mean, it's going better for you than it is for us, I'm sure. You finally got your first win in the GT3s, and you were completely dominant. Nobody could touch you.
Oh, it's been years since I won anything, so yeah, pretty stoked.
Terrafino was able to get, I think, to the back of you for a little bit, but he wasn't able to get closer consistently than about a second. Were you feeling completely in control in the car? Is this your track? Is this a track that you like?
I was actually talking to my teammates before the race. I just love the track-car combo. Yeah, I felt pretty comfortable. I try to keep that gap to 1.5 to 2 seconds. Yeah, and just try to manage, keep the tires happy. Terrafino was doing a great job. I feel bad for him. I know in the I think it was lap before last, something happened. The Merc was just right there in the bad spot without the brakes, and I think they caught him, but yeah, great race to him.
Next week, we just talked about it. We're going off to Laguna Seca. I'd say there's quite a few similarities to Road Atlanta. Kind of hard to pass at times. High speed punishes mistakes. You think you can go 2 for 2 next week?
I don't know, but I'll sure give it a try.
All right, well, congrats on your win tonight, and we look forward to see you giving it another shot next week.
Thank you, guys. Great broadcast.
Andres Espinosa victorious tonight, Arjuna, and will it be for the, well, it was for the first time this season. Will it be for the only time this season? It's been impossible to predict. That's 3 different winners in 3 races in GT3 Fixed.
I feel like to some degree it'll just come down to pure balance of performance and how that Ferrari does at some of the other tracks, because he's clearly got the pace. Will that machine always have what it gives? We didn't talk about it, I think, too much, but there were a couple of drivers that did switch cars before today's race, switch to the BMW. And Joey, as we get set for the GT3 Sprint Series, that comes with a points penalty. So it's something that drivers can do if they feel like they're not in the right car, whether it be overall or just for themselves. It does come with a price.
It does come with a 20-point penalty if you switch your car early in the season. So Thomas Dunn, Justin Rector, and Tom Fain have all elected to switch to the BMW, which is an interesting choice, but they all think that that's the place to be, and they'll be switching to the BMW for Road Atlanta here tonight. We'll see if it gives them any better luck than those first couple of races this season. It's not been a very lucky start to the season for Justin Rector especially. I think he's had 2 DNFs to start. But Blue Chip Racing hoping that BMW turns their luck around here.
Let's focus in on that Sprint Series then. Again, I said open setups, but also slightly different in terms of the race length itself. 5 minutes longer, but a slightly bigger fuel tank to compensate. We take a look at the pro standings. It was a close race last week. Let's make it clear. Sean Campbell was not allowed to run away in the same fashion to which sometimes he has been able to do in various competitions across the sim racing world. Today, though, at a track where draft will play its part, I don't know what to expect. I think the reality is we expect the unexpected.
Well, I think back to the GT4 series last season, the GT4 Open Series, just like this GT3 Open Series. Who won at Road Atlanta but Sean Campbell? So he's tough to beat here. It's a good track for him, I think, in general. But Vincent Trepanier was so strong last week, really kept the pressure on, wasn't able to get by Sean Campbell, wasn't able to force him into a mistake. But at Road Atlanta, when the draft is that much more powerful than it was at Motegi, he'll probably have a few more chances to actually go for that move. Maybe have a little bit of a draft battle back and forth if he can stick with them. I think this could be the week where somebody finally beats Sean Campbell for the first time in the PRL. Coincidentally, in his 13th race in the PRL. Could that be bad luck?
I love little nuggets like that. Quick look at the AM standings as well, because it's only a 9-point swing between first and third, with Blake Seaty in front of Miguel Fonseca, who took victory last time out, and Rob Campbell as well. This is definitely going to be one to watch. Quick look at the team championship as well, where we split it up again into Pro and Am, but it is now a 12-point advantage that the ASR Esports Chrome team have over We Race Esports, so definitely track that. And RSR by Buttkicker, despite having limited numbers, still running well in the Pro Class Long Island Racing team, first overall in AM, with the Hardpoint Delta Sport Academy team behind them. A big gap starting to build in that one, Joey.
Yeah, big gap with ZD. ZD won the first race, was on the podium in the second race. He's been doing a great job. The Long Island Racing team won a couple of races in the undercard series last season, the GT3 Fixed Series with Fred Galini, and they're doing very, very well in this AM class. And the Pro class is going to be one to watch because everything really evens out. The ASR Esports drivers, Vincent Trepanier, the headliner, of course, hasn't been able to win this season, but he's been consistent, and his teammates have been with him. We Race Esports with Diego Morales as well, and RSR by Buttkicker with Sean Campbell and Ted Lowendick. They all kind of even out in the middle. The average of all their drivers, even with Sean Campbell at the head of the championship, it all meets in the middle. So that's going to be a very, very interesting championship battle in the teams, at least.
Another look up top from the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. I mentioned the elevation change. Lowest point in the track comes just before the bottom of the S's, about 800 feet. The highest point just after turn 10 as you get ready to plunge down under the Fox Factory Bridge. It's about 120 feet between the highest and lowest point, but because you're always going up and down, there is plenty of elevation change. Just from the exit of turn 7 down to turn 10, you're looking at upwards of 70 feet, both up and down, so plenty to talk about here. And we saw it in the first race of the evening on Tuesday night GT3s today here, Joey. Qualifying is going to be important because the leader can go basically as soon as they want, and if they decide to go as soon as the pace car pulls off, those at the back are yet to funnel through the chicane.
Yeah, it's a good place to be on pole. You can basically invent your own starting line, and I guarantee you, no matter who's on pole, whether it's predictedly Sean Campbell, whether it's somebody else, they're going to be accelerating as soon as humanly possible. They're going to build up as big of a gap as possible, and then everybody at the back of the field is still just going to be crawling through that chicane, like you said. It's a very difficult place to start a race. We've seen calamity in this series on those initial starts with the IndyCar-style checkups at the back of the field, but hopefully everybody makes it through, and it's not Sean Campbell on... Oh, well... Speak of the devil, Martin Chris was on pole for a moment, and there goes Vincent Trepanier. So yeah, somebody has beat Sean Campbell on pole with 6 minutes 45 to go.
Let's ride. So up through turn 3, use the curb on the right. Look how much he cuts and then actually compromises himself a little too much. So that will be lap done for Campbell. He'll grit and go as it will and go again. But the margin at the top, 600th of a second. But it's Trepanier that strikes first in qualifying.
And Justin Rector and that new BMW, clearly that was a good choice to make. Clearly Blue Chip Racing feels they're stronger in that BMW, and Justin has put it P6, at least for the moment. Still a lot of time to go. He's already been displaced down to 7th by Alessandro Puotti, but close stuff at the top of these timesheets. A lot of drivers have more experience at Road Atlanta than some other tracks. That might explain some of the differences at the top of the sheets, like Peter Newhook on AM pole right now in the GT3s, and Thurman and Stroll behind him. There's a lot of shuffling around in some of these orders, but it looks like some of the usual suspects up at the top of Pro, just in a little bit of a different order.
Ryan Patrick, by 0.3 of a second, will jump to the top of AM and inserts himself into the top 10 overall. Trepanier dives down the hill, though, and it was trending okay, but I think out of the final corner, either invalidated or pushed a little bit too much and overdid it. That'll be his second lap in qualifying, burned, and he'll have 2 more opportunities at the very death. Bergstrom now up into 7th overall, only 4.5 tenths off pole as it runs right now. We've got a fun field shaking up right now, and more than 40 GT3s getting ready to rumble with less than half of qualifying still left to play.
Sean Dickinson up a little bit higher than we're used to seeing him as well in 6th, trying to improve. Also, we saw Alec Bergstrom, like you mentioned, go up to pole on AM. Ryan Patrick slotted in behind him. Those are the 2 we really expect to be at the top of the AM Championship this season. They had a struggled start to the season, but maybe this is the start of their recovery. Dickinson crosses the line, improves a teensy little bit, but unfortunately, not a big enough gap to improve to catch Quoti, but he did pick up about 77 thousandths of a second there, so it was an improvement at the very least.
Ride with
and we got a new Sean Campbell view.
Yes, no, he does like to give us new views, but I like this one because it shows that you don't need the best equipment to go fast. He's got just a single screen, what looks like to be Fanatec CSL, so not even a direct drive wheelbase, and I'd assume therefore maybe not even the highest end pedals. You do not need fancy equipment to be the fastest there is. RaceSpot's own, the co-founder of RaceSpot, Hugo Luis, still races on the wheel and pedals that he won the World Championship in back in 2011. Sean Campbell is pointing us to the Delta because I think this is a good lap as he dives to turn 10.
I think the exposure on this camera is a little bit too high. I can't read the Delta. I can't get spoiled on this, so it's going to be as big of a surprise to you as it is to us. I think I can see as we get a little bit of blackness with the bridge there. He was about 27 tenths or something like that. I don't know how the math works, but either way, yeah, onto pole easily. 3/10 of a second.
Well, 2 and a bit because Crisp had jumped up to second momentarily, just a 1/4 of a tenth quicker than Trepignet, but Trepignet is already down through turn 5 on what's his third qualifying attempt. We'll ride with him for a moment and then check out what Sean Campbell is doing because I think he's done in qualifying. Campbell's got all he can from go fast time.
I think what I was trying to math there was 27 hundredths of a second. That's what 2.7 tenths of a second is in math. But Vincent Trepignet is hoping he can find the same advantage there. It's hard to find that much time, especially in a pro field like this. I think that tells us that Sean Campbell probably just did a bad lap on his first lap, or at least a bad lap by his standards. But Trepignet's hoping that he can match that on this level. If he can improve by as much as Campbell did, that'll be enough for pole. Through the final corner, clips the grass a little bit, but it's a good run. Almost clips the grass on the inside as well. Then full throttle through the final corner here. 5th gear, crosses the line. He's found a little bit of time. I think he might jump Crisp. Yes, he does, but not quite enough for pole.
So let's ride with a lap here through turn 1. Look at the commitment. It comes up, yes, but you've got to swing wide through turn 1. Trepignet dances the rear out, and that's qualifying done for him as well, because clearly whatever's going on with these open setups, the tires just cannot do more than one flying lap.
They're just optimized for that one perfect first time out lap. Sometimes we see in this series that it's the 3rd or the 4th lap that ends up being the best one, but at Road Atlanta here with the high speed, with the high commitment, it's that first lap that you've got to nail. Justin Rector was up in 6th, fell to 9th. He is going to improve again on just a 1-lap run here in this BMW. That's going to jump him up 7 to 7th, 2 spots up to 7th. If my math was correct there, and that's his best qualifying of the season. So it's a small sample size, but switching to the BMW has worked out pretty well for Justin so far.
Martin Crisp has already bailed in his final lap, I can tell you that. I don't think we have too many cars trending on an improvement. Here's Alessandro Porti on the outside of row 3 as it stands right now. Only Bergstrom in terms of AM inside of the top 10. Ryan Patrick is only about 2/10 off the pace. Looking good to have a fun fight between the two of them as they'll line up. Just a couple of rows split from one another. Here comes the Leo Racing Team number 61, the Porsche 911 with a 17.474. Not going to improve there, but Quoti getting those final moments to improve and get some practice in. I think that's basically qualifying done because all drivers have used their attempts other than Martin Crisp, who is back out on track, but after coming down through pit lane, I don't see how his SimCity Racing 954 is going to set a lap time this time around.
I don't think it'll be possible, but it's always good to get those extra corners of practice in. Even if you do only get like half a lap in, you might find a better way to run one of these corners. You might find a way to take advantage that you wish you could have found during actual qualifying. You wish you could have actually used it to your own advantage, but if you can discover it for the race, and Martin Crisp is in a good position to use any sort of advantage in the race, right behind Sean Campbell at the start. He's got the potential to jump it a little bit, to stick with Campbell, maybe jump Trepignet in the start through the final corner. Doesn't matter. He's going to pull it down pit lane, and that's going to be the end of Crisp's qualifying as well.
I think it's going to be one of those starts where there's a bit of jeopardy for those in the mid-pack. The further back you are, in some ways, the safer you are. Starting in pit lane might not also be the worst thing in the world in this sort of a race, but with qualifying done, we're in for a treat in both the Pro and the AM categories. It's, yes, a couple of tenths here and there, but at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta with draft playing such a big factor, we've already seen that it can keep you close. Will we see anyone break away like we saw Andres Espinosa able to do earlier on tonight? The first half of the Tuesday night doubleheader has come to a close. It is time for the GT3 Sprint Series to get underway. From Brazelton, Georgia, let's run you down through the starting grid, where once again we find a familiar name at the front of the field. And after Sean Campbell was pushed all the way to the checkered flag last week in the land of the rising sun, it's got a bit more breathing room this time to Trepigny, with 210 splitting the two Porsche 911s on the front of the field, but there will be plenty of fighting, there is no doubt about that. It is a Porsche lockout of the front three rows, with Martin Crisp and Diego Morales row 2, Dimas Jr. and Alessandro Proti 5th and 6th spots, with just over a 100th of a second between the two of them. Then our first non-Porsche, it's a all BMW row 4, with Justin Rector inside of Sean Dickinson, and then Ted Lowendick, the second of the RSR by Buttkicker machines. Crucial when it comes to the team championship, lining up inside of the YS Motorsports Black 66. Alex Bergstrom, the fastest of your AM machines, his Mercedes, lines up on the outside of row 5. Dave Menino in the number 3 Porsche 11th with Ryan Pucktel to his outside for company. Ryan Patrick, the second of the AM machines, with some new colors for Lunatic Moonlight Speed Racing. Good to see the white and pink on them, with Mitchell Ian Green alongside on row 7, Blue Chip Racing and SRT Esport Black, row number 8. Arnaud Guedes and the ASR Esports Chrome 312 lines up 17th. Crucial when it comes to the team championship. Gonzalo Cortez to his outside with Keith Panila and Alex Caruso bookending the top 20. Brett Thurman and Thomas Dunn, Ammon Pro, row 11. Tommy Brasone inside of Rob Campbell, more traditional colors on that 93. David Duino in the Vector by RSR, black and green, along with Alan Roth on row 13th, while Pete Newhook has some, as always, distinctive colors for us to look at in his privateer number 7, Turner Schroll, the BMW for Hardpoint by Delta Sport Academy car to his outside. Final Lap Sim Racing and Sim Racing LA Endurance team make up the top 30, with Fonseca from the edge of the top 30. Lehman, Deering, McLaughlin, Becker, the top 34, with McLaughlin and Becker having plenty of work to do, with the pros very much out of formation. Tyler Campbell, Jeff Evans, row number 18. Blake Seedy and Eric Dubé, 37th and 38th, will scroll through the rest of the names in the monster field of GT3 cars that is getting ready to roll. But other than McLaughlin, what other shocks have you noticed looking through the grid, Joey?
Well, Nick is the big one, down in 33rd with his teammate in those two breast cancer awareness Porsches that they've just put on for new for October. They're going to be hard to tell apart, but I'm sure they'll be easy to watch them drive through the field. A lot of drivers in the AM category that I'm looking at are a lot of drivers who are going to be back here tomorrow night for the trucks. Robert Goff, Mark Kalin, Jeff Evans, all those drivers picking up some different machinery. Of course, Mark Kalin has a lot of experience on the road course stuff in the PRL, but I always love to see drivers trying out two very different disciplines, and look for them to see if they can survive here at Road Atlanta, coming to the start at about half a lap's time in a huge field. The back of the AM class is going to be the real danger zone, so if you can make it through the start here, you're in good shape for the race.
In terms of doing different disciplines, you learn actually stuff about your main discipline going off to do the supplemental disciplines. That's what I've learned, and I think talking to some of the multifaceted World Championship drivers, you hear a similar story as well. Quick look at your driver webcams. As always, Ted Lowendick has an interesting background to take a look at. Caleb Lehman's got the googly eyes on the VR goggles, as you must, but a good look at some of our drivers. And of course, you don't need good equipment to go racing, as Sean Campbell at the bottom continues to prove to us. So race number 13 for Sean Campbell. Is this unlucky number 13? That's the question that you posed to us earlier tonight, Joey. What are your thoughts? What are your expectations as we get ready to go?
Well, if he stayed in third in qualifying, if he didn't find those darn 27 hundredths of a second, I'd be a little bit more concerned about his victory here. But he's put it on pole. He's going to be able to jump the field in the start early here. He's going to be in control. And when you put this guy in control, even if you have Vincent Trepigny hounding him like he did last week, it's hard to get him out of control.
First half of the Tuesday night doubleheader has already had some intrigue, but it was domination at the front. What does the GT3 Sprint Series have in store for us here from Brazelton, Georgia? Sean Campbell holds the field a little bit longer, but picks up the throttle and gets us racing once more. It's a great start from him. Trepanier holds on to second, side by side for fourth position for a moment. Now for third as they plunge up the hill in towards turn number 3. Nice and tidy, not many cars running the limits of the track. The Leo Racing Team Porsche will have to be careful on the rejoin as he makes it too wide, but safely through the opening 4 cars, dive into the S's.
Quoti's very, very lucky he was able to find a hole there. That's the worst place to go off on lap 1, especially when everybody's been so kind to each other. They've been so clean. They've all formed one line here, and I think Quoti's actually got a slowdown for his little bit of an off track there, and he's going to have an even tougher time finding a slot in line here. He actually does get lucky. There was a gap right there as he led, I think, the second of the ASR Porsches behind, so he is going to get back in line, but we got bumper cars coming into turn 6.
Yeah, that's plenty of bumper cars being played. I don't think anyone pushed it out too wide, at least for a moment. That's actually at turn 5, so no issues. That was Jeff Evans, unfortunately, that went around. Eric Dubé also had a little bit of a moment as well, but relatively, similar to what we saw with the Fix Series. Clean on lap 1. Sean Campbell converting pole position to the lead of this race, and as we dive down the hill in towards the start-finish line to get yet another lap underway. A bit of a breakaway forming with the top 3. Martin Crisp in danger of being dropped. Proti with another mistake, now going to fall even further back. He's outside of the top 25 as off into the grass goes Alan Roth. Proti will get tagged, and more chaos at Road Atlanta.
I wonder if he had a little bit of damage there. The way Quoti's car looped around through the final corner, that looked unlike just cold tires to me. So I don't know if he got additional damage in the little exchange he had to do to get back in line, if he got something, maybe at turn 10, but bad luck for him, bad luck for Alan Roth on lap 1. Quoti, always a quick driver, but he's going to have a struggle driving back through the field if he has any damage. Trepanier's job right now is just to stick with Sean Campbell, just like last week. Don't let him get away. Just keep the pressure on and maybe hope that there's some additional storylines coming from those lapped cars that'll check him up just a little bit. But all you can do right now, you can only control your own destiny. You got to stick with him.
Joey is already pleading to the racing gods for a little bit of chaos and for a little bit of drama later on. We check in with Teddy Lowendick, who's starting to back the pack up a little bit relative behind him in 8th position with 1.2 seconds up the road to Justin Rector. 20% off on Butt Kicker products if you're curious, using the code RSR2022. Generous of Teddy to share that one with us.
I think he's going to turn people off a butt kicker, though, with the shoey on the side.
Fair.
So it evens out. It evens out the discount and all that stuff. Gonzalo Cortez, oh dear, he almost clipped the evil curb there. He's going to be able to recover, but the outside of turn 1 is not the place you want to be. J.R. Williams says, thank you very much. I'll take the inside, and then the inside switches back to Gonzalo Cortez. He wasn't quite able to steal that one as easily as I thought. Gonzalo, as usual, very, very aggressive on these first laps, and he gets away with the J.R. Williams battle, but he's been very, very aggressive, especially through the S's.
Sometimes you just have to be aggressive, though, in these early laps, especially in real-world racing. I think something changed a little bit here in the sim. Another look at what happened with the Leo. There's contact, and he gets speared to the left-hand side, to be completely fair. Then the rejoin is, as good as it can be, and then it's the slowdown penalty, which always hurts more on lap number 1, but I think he does the right thing and doesn't try and serve it before he gets to turn 5. He waits and now has to deal with it.
Yeah, Rector got into the back of him a little bit while he was trying to pull off, but he was probably seeing that ticking clock on the slowdown tracker. You have like 3 seconds, and Jeff Evans, nothing he could have really done there a little bit further back. That was what happened to him, and I think Dubé, they end up taking the club track. They got so far off the road. Turn 5 on lap 1, it bites, and then Quoti did get turned around again by another driver. I don't think he had any damage, though. He just ended up, that might have caused a little bit of extra damage through the final corner, and then loops around. Oh, he's on the grass. He was on the grass, that's why.
I was going to say, at that point, I don't think there was really much that was going to go well. Alan Roth, I think, the other one that loses out, but yeah, the Leo Racing car, a little bit of a bumper car moment there overall on lap number 1. Settles down for the time being, although I think Sean Carmody in the 40, the black and green, has had a moment to his own. Desjardins is behind him and trying to pile on the pressure, and behind him as well, Darren Rutherford. I think in front of them, Blake Zede's had an issue because I heard a big puff of tire smoke, and yes, indeed, Zede in the Audi goes around at turn 5.
Turn 5's always a tough spot, and it's going to be even tougher in the Open Series when everybody's trying to take a little bit more advantage. It's not the fixed series anymore. iRacing has not made these setups to guarantee good racing, to guarantee drivability. Every single driver in this field has a different setup on their different cars, and some of them are going to be far, far more evil at turn 5 than others, trying to bounce over that curb, and looks like Blake Ziti got bit.
Cortez still embroiled in a fight here, 13th or so, and now almost contact as well between him and J.R. Williams behind Arnaud Ganest. They'll single file it out for now, but again, just continuing to be a little bit more treacherous than the race that we had last time, and Carmody again has got around in turn 10. I see another Porsche having issues. It's Desjardins. I put 2 and 2 together. It doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to do that.
Yeah, the bad luck for Sean Carmody has struck again, and Arjuna, I need you to say this. It's a Carmody of errors for him.
Oh, yes, it is a Carmody of errors. Oh!
Finally, oh dear.
Ometo Jr. will loop it by himself, and now going spinning as well goes another Porsche. I don't know what's going on today. Bergstrom's had issues as well from the lead of the AM class. This is one of those days where you just don't know where to look or what to look at.
Crisp is finally able to recover, but that was bizarre to see. It's like everybody just followed each other into the grass, and,
it's like there was
everybody
oil.
threw it off the road. Yeah, it's like there was virtual oil on the track. Dimas Ometo Jr., go back to the pits. We Race Esports has got to check that engine, but something clearly went wrong, and there was clearly some target fixation for Martin Crisp, and Ted Lowendick, Dave Menino, Mitchell Ian Green, they all say thank you very much. I'll take those free positions, and I won't slip on the virtual oil.
Let's see if we can grab some replays. Start with Dimas Jr., just not the first time that we've seen that, to be fair. Just the rear engine nation. Yeah, Carmody of errors is indeed, as Martin Crisp just, was it sympathy looping it, or does he get a helping hand from the BMW? Oh, yeah, clumsy.
Yeah, no oil down there, just a bumper of Justin Rector that dumped him around there.
So what happened to Bergstrom then?
He's got to be coming through here somewhere. Where is Alex? Oh, there he is. There he is.
Turn 5. And
Turn 5 strikes again.
Then backs it up into the wall. Now, he lost it early. He lost it real early as well. Jump on board.
Trying to race with the SRT Esports Porsche here, up into turn 5. He didn't even clip the curb. The car just got loose already through the first half of that corner, and when the Mercedes decides that you're spinning, there is no recovering it. You can see just... Well, he clips the curb a little bit, gets it elevated.
Yeah, it's the curb on the right, which is the one that seems to unsettle him, which is bizarre, because usually that's an afterthought in this car. Just look, it's the... I don't even know how it unsettles the car, but it does so, and to be fair, from that point, he's a passenger.
Yeah, like I said, once that curb decides your fate, you can't recover. There's no time to react. There's no time to adjust. The ABS is freaking out. It's trying to spin you around. When you hit these curbs, sometimes there's those little grooves, those little ruts that you hit, and it loops you around. And that's just bad luck for Bergstrom, who was doing such a great job. He was finally on track to recover his season, and he's the next driver to get bit, and Ryan Patrick takes the AM lead.
Got a couple of battles to watch here. Battle for first in pro and battle for fifth in pro. I say pro, but it is overall as well as they run right now. Top 3 split by 1.6. Morales doing well to hang on there, but you also have Justin Rector in front of Lowendick and Menino. Plenty of fighting to be tracking. Check back in with the two that have tangoed quite a bit today, and I think they're about to do so once more on the run into turn 11. Cortez and Williams, with Williams getting the draft in that BMW.
I'm very thankful to Gonzalo for choosing just a bright red car this season, because it makes it very easy to identify him. J.R. Williams, though, always easy to identify in his BMW as well. Trying to go around the outside at turn 10. You can do that, but he thinks better of it. He backs out. He's going to try and go for a switchback on Gonzalo, who almost throws it off the road in turn 10B there, but still, Gonzalo just holding tough here. It's a very wide Porsche. Normally it's the BMW that makes itself as wide as possible, but Gonzalo is really succeeding here. Now JR finally gets to the inside to turn 1, forces Gonzalo off, and he's through for good now.
Yeah, and I think Cortez then had to think, what was Alex Caruso going to do? Who got the memo there from Cortez and said, you know what, yes, you're right, I will not force the issue. Ryan Patrick gets 2 cars between him and Brett Thurman, the second of the AMs. Dude, I've got to say, I wasn't sure what to expect when we got the message from Nick McLaughlin that we were gonna see some new colors and paint schemes on the cars. I love it. 10 out of 10. Best livery we've got in the session today.
And it looks a little bit like, to reference last season, a rhubarb and custard drumstick squashy from Sainsbury's. So always happy to see some references from last season brought back up, dug out of the grave, and of course, in all seriousness, for a good cause. All of these drivers from Lunatic Moonlight Speed Racing trying to raise awareness, as we do every October. See if he can raise his position on track on Alex Caruso here. Not quite. He's going to back out of it. He knows he's not fighting for position. I've been in this position before in a different series in the PRL. You've got no reason to fight these pros for this position. He's going to think about getting to the inside of Caruso, but he knows it's not worth it. He's going to back out of it.
Yeah, you say that, but at the same time, we jump on board with Brett Thurman. This is second place in M. There's only 2 cars between Patrick and Thurman right now. If I'm Thurman, if I'm Patrick, I would very much like to put some separation between me and my main rival. Caleb Lehman comes down to pit lane as Rob Campbell goes for his own little excursion through the grass, and whoa, that's a dangerous spot to rejoin. He just about perfectly executes it in front of Pete Newhook, but yeah, we've seen plenty of drivers struggle with Road Atlanta. And I'm curious why that is, because like we've been talking about, it is one of the more frequented tracks here on iRacing.
It's frequented, but it's really hard to figure out. At least personally, I could never figure this track out. I always hated this track because I knew there was more time on the table. I knew you had to be high commitment, and I could never find that commitment until I literally did a driver coaching session in the F3 for like 3 hours. I finally found the groove, and that's when this track finally clicked for me. But it takes a long time. It takes a lot of running for this place to click, and it's just high commitment. And sometimes there's drivers who can just do things that you can't seem to do. There's commitment levels that seem physically impossible that people like Sean Campbell and Trepanier and just about all the pros in this series, and even most of the AMs, it's an extremely high level here to meet in the Precision Racing League.
It's really not going well for Blake Zeedy, who's gone around again, and not just great for his championship hopes, but for the team championship as well, with his team coming into this one leading in the AM championship. We pick up Martin Crespo after getting a helping hand through turn 7, is in front of Turner Schroll in the 3rd of your AM GT3 machines. But as they come down through the hill, down to the lowest point in the track, and then throw it out through turn 5. Just look at how the Porsche is more comfortable to use the curbing. And compared to what we saw earlier, you know, we talk about setup differences. I wonder how much people have worked on suspension setup here, because I remember a couple of years ago, would have been the 2019 iRacing Petit Le Mans, when I was in the BMW M8 GTE car with my teammate. And I remember there was a session where we were trying to figure out how we could get turn 5 a little bit more comfortable. And we just did a random click. I don't think either of us expected it to work. Suddenly we found about 2.5 tenths and we're so much more comfortable. So I wonder what magic some of these drivers have been able to find.
Yeah, it's that setup magic that makes this series more interesting, and it makes it almost impossible to fight with somebody who's had that magic setup click that you can't find without random luck somehow. But yeah, turn 5 is always very, very bouncy. We saw it catch out a couple of drivers in the last race. You're always trying to extend it for as long as possible, like Diego Morales is here. But if you're going bouncy, bouncy, bouncy through there, you're shedding speed. So you want a suspension that can take those bounces. You also want a suspension that's not going to lift you too high up in the air for this long straight in the background, or in the back straight rather. And you also have to think about downforce levels. We've got one straight, but this one straight makes up about half the track here. You want higher downforce for the S's. You want high downforce for the high commitment through turn 1 that you need. But it's just an impossible balancing act that somehow you have to make possible, and sometimes, more often than not, you don't find the perfect setup, unfortunately, but you got to live with it.
So what happens to Alex Caruso here? Because that's not normal.
Yeah, that looks like he had some sort of equipment failure. His VR failed. Oh, or did he? No, he got damage. That wasn't no, that's not him. That's a different car.
Yes,
that's a different hardpoint by Delta Sport car, and that's also a different make and model entirely. But I have to imagine that was just a park with some sort of technical issue. This, though, was not a technical issue. This was a car in front of me issue.
Yeah, it was Dimas Jr., wasn't it, who really didn't have much to do, and then Colin yeah, just one of those days. One of those days. Colin McKenzie loops it around, and then subsequently, same paint scheme, different car. Nick McLaughlin, turn 5. My word, into the wall you go.
Yeah, I think you need a secret click of suspension on that car there, Nick. Up over the curb, and he hits it just wrong. He might have hit the wall either way there. I think he was a little bit too committed.
Yeah, look at the line that he's taking when he hits the curb. That's all I'm saying, because he's still pointed directly at the marshal stand on the outside of the corner. Yeah,
that corner attracts perfect, or it attracts real commitment. You want to put more speed than you can through there, and unfortunately, it bites sometimes. You take a little bit too much, and
Campbell.
Who put that wall there?
Well, who put this gap between first and second? It's now 2.8. Trepinier's dropped behind Morales, and we say goodbye to Sean Campbell.
I think Trepinier made a mistake somewhere, because I saw him fall down a little bit. I didn't expect Diego Morales to get by him, but did turn 5 bite him? I don't know. It was a small mistake, but a small mistake makes 3 seconds of a gap, and I don't know where that could have been. There's so many places that people have found to make mistakes tonight. We just got to wait to diagnose what happened to Trepinier.
I'm trying to figure out, could it be a slowdown or exactly what might have happened? There's Sean Campbell. Tidy, smooth, cool, calm, confident, everything you need in a young esport. Oh, my word. He went airplane mode there for a second as well.
And he was watching the stream. He saw Nick McLaughlin do that, and he was like, hey, I should do that too. I'm going to get on the broadcast. But less contact with the wall than Nick did. But again, it's exactly the same thing. Literally exactly the same thing. Just clips that curb. It essentially becomes a ramp, and the steering wheel don't work when your 4 wheels aren't on the ground, unfortunately. So Vincent Trepinier, we'll watch it from the helicopter perspective as well. You'll probably see the height from this perspective as well. Like, look at that. There's no wheels on the ground there, and now there's 2 wheels on the wall. That's a big hit. I'm surprised that wheel's still straight.
Oh! Was Sean Campbell just playing games there, or was there a moment?
I think he was just taking his hands off the wheel for a rest, but also he was lapping Colin McKenzie there, so
okay.
I don't know.
See, this is where you know he doesn't have a direct drive wheel, because if I take my hands off the wheel in the Indy car, there ain't no getting back onto that bucking Bronco.
See if he takes his hands off the wheel in the straight again here.
That is definitely an issue. The 3 Porsche. Turn 1 has been a real bugbear for these Porsches, and it's just the rear engine nature, I'd have to assume, because it changes how you approach the corner and how you deal with the weight transfer. Menino will slip down to 16th spot and even lower, because still he tries to get up to speed.
And that's a weird place for the car to end up. That almost looks like what usually happens when you're in an open wheel car and you clip the rise of the curb and it just loops you around. I don't think that's possible in these GT3 cars, but let's see. No, before that, the Porsche does just pendulum around. He doesn't even get out to the curb. He's already losing it basically on turn in. Right on board here with Dave Menino coming into turn 1. It's all straightforward. And then he turns in, and the car's, it's already looping around just in the transition on the little bit of elevation change there. That's what caused it.
So in my amateur commentary, knowledge, I think part of the issue there was he was still loaded up. He heard the throttle. I don't think he ever really let off it too much. And basic physics, when you're on the throttle, momentum, weight transfer goes back. When you get on the brakes, momentum, weight transfer goes forward. I just think turn 1 is the corner that exemplifies why this is such a difficult car for gentleman drivers in the real world, and why cars like the Ferrari, the BMW and the Bentley with stability and user friendliness have become much more popular as gentleman driver cars. The Porsche's great when it's in the rain and you need the traction on the rear wheels at all times, but when you're not used to dealing with it, it can bite you.
And that's the trade-off you have to make, because when you can deal with it, when you do know how to predict, as hard as that is to do, it's clearly the fastest car in this GT3 Sprint Series. It's clearly the car to have in GT3 this season. So that's the trade-off you have to make. Can you figure this car out quickly enough to not throw it in the wall at least and find that speed? Or if you're going to throw it in the wall, do you pick a car that's more comfortable to you just so you can bring it to the end of this race? That's the trade-off you have to make, and you basically just got to think about yourself as a driver. Are you willing to take that risk, to take a car that might just kill you if you can't figure it out? Or do you want to give yourself the biggest chance at victory and pick the car that's going to win?
Lovely camera shot from up above as the cars first climb up towards the Fox Factory Bridge and then plunge down the hill. 20 minutes to go, so halfway through this race. Haven't seen too many pit stops other than those that have had issues, and there have been plenty of those. 48 started this race. We're down to 41 still running, only 36 left on the leading lap, and almost on cue, Martin Crisp in the SimCity Racing 954 dives to pit lane, one of the final running cars in the Pro class.
And he's going to be able to find a gap at the back of the field here. That's something that the leaders aren't going to be able to find with how everything's stratified out here. But Martin Crisp was, I believe, 18th or 26th overall, something like that when he came in. So he'll find a spot at the back of the train. He'll have a little bit of clean track to hopefully attempt his drive forward through the field. Hard to say 3 times fast with no cars in front of him.
Yeah, I was just scrolling through some of my Twitter memories recently, and I came across the time when Turner Motorsports challenged me to say, I'm not even going to try saying it, but one of those tongue twisters live on broadcast. It went predictably badly for everyone in the broadcast booth, and since then I have vowed to never let that happen, at least while I am here. 20 minutes ago, and we mentioned this weekend is the third of the VCO Grand Slams, the iRacing special events, where it's not just bragging rights on the line, there is physical hardware to be paid out as well, with each of your class winners walking away with trophies in the top split broadcasts on Saturday 12 p.m. UTC. Coverage will be brought to you with RaceSpotTV in partnership with the great team at Radio Show Limited. 3 hours at the start, 3 hours at the end. You'll have the voices of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship and so many endurance series around the world in your ears, live in sound and vision. In those middle 4 hours, RaceSpotTV will keep the fort down. I'm a little bit sad that I won't be around, not just because Petit Le Mans is one of my favorite endurance events of the year, period, but because I always enjoy working with the team at RSL. But with this new 2-class format that IMSA has moved to, it's a very different race to what it was 3 or 4 years ago when you had GTLM in the mix as well, Joey.
It is very different, and it mirrors what we have in real life with GTD Pro and GTD. The GTLMs, unfortunately, have kind of been erased from our consciousness. They still exist on iRacing. I still hope to see them maybe being raced in a PRL series a little bit later. I think some drivers would welcome that, but it's all GT3 all the time. Fortunately or unfortunately, it's pretty easy to hop into a GT3, and I think everybody's still happy with these cars, but those GTLM cars, they're too good to be sitting off by the sidelines. So hopefully we see them used virtually somewhere soon.
Yeah, I have a diecast of the only privateer for GT that was ever on, the one that was, of course, robbed of a race victory thanks to its own shenanigans. When I say robbed, I mean that in the loosest possible term. 17 minutes to go. It's now 5 seconds at the front of the field. Sean Campbell, once you give him an opportunity, needs no second invitation. Other battle that I'm really tracking, though, is that battle for the final spot in the top 5, where the shoey-laden Ted Lowendick has really closed up to the BMW of Justin Rector, with some lap traffic in front of them to play as well.
And Ted Lowendick might be on a little bit of a sugar high here. I think he took advantage of the weakness of the British pound and did a whole Amazon shipment of a couple of British candies.
Ooh, that is tempting.
He got a bunch of bags of drumstick squashies. So luckily, complete economic failure across the ocean means cheap candy here in the United States. And Ted Lowendick's on sugar power tonight, and he's got Justin Rector ahead of him now. Both of these drivers started lower in the field. Rector, I think, was about 7th. Lowendick was 9th, and they've taken advantage of some of those drivers who have unfortunately lost themselves from this race. And now Rector's got another BMW friend in front of him to lap.
Yeah, and using the lights, the universal sign of "get out of my way, I'm faster than you." And in fact, it's worked out perfectly for Rector. Oh, as Lowendick almost runs straight into the back of the BMW because it built a bit of separation and might just have checked up Lowendick. But to be fair, I don't think the RSR by butt kicker machine was in a lifting mood right there.
Yeah, there was almost a drumstick squashy on the front end of that RSR by butt kicker Porsche, but he's trying to join his teammate. They're trying to fight for a team's championship here. They're currently 3rd because, while Sean has won both of the first 2 races this season, Ted has been very, very quick. He's had a great result coming at Road America, and then he spun on literally the final lap. Motegi was a troubled day as well with a pit strategy that didn't work out. He's finally got a good race running here, and if he can get P5 here, 1st and 5th, for RSR by butt kicking would be a huge haul of points, and I think that would easily put them in the championship lead because Vincent Trepannier's closest teammate is down in 11th for ASR, so do the math. I think that means RSR by butt kicker would be at the top of the tables, but Ted's got to survive for 15 more minutes.
Never trust the commentator's math. We had to look at Ted Lowendick. Now we get the look at Justin Rector guns out, and well, hopefully he doesn't get too physical in this fight because they've got 6 seconds up the road to Sean Dickinson, so plenty to play there. But only 1.8 back to Mitchell Ian Green, so if there is any shenanigans between these two, don't discount that 19 to close up as well. More pit stops underway. The 312, Arnaud Guinness dives to the lane.
This is when we're really starting to see things get busy on pit lane. It's about that time, 13 minutes to go. We're really reaching the end of this fuel tank. A lot of the AMs have come in. There's still a few stragglers, but now Tyler Campbell comes in, Peter Newhook. It's kicking off for just about everybody. You can, and I think just as I say that, Tyler Campbell overcooked it. Tyler J. Campbell, or Tyler S. Campbell. Which Tyler Campbell is this? I forget which one it is. Why are there 2 Tyler Campbells in the PRL?
Yeah, confusingly, they haven't. It's not differentiated for us very much either. It did cost him a little bit of time. Newhook might, in fact, win that race off a pit road as a result of sliding through the box. Execution at every stage of pit lane is paramount. It is as simple as that. Sean Campbell will dive into the lane. So with 14 minutes to go, as I think Trepanier and Morales continue to pound in the laps, clearly, the RSR by butt kicker driver thinks there's a gap that he can find.
By the way, just to close that door, that is Tyler J. Campbell. Tyler S. Campbell is our F3 friend, so a lot of Campbells in the PRL. Sean Campbell, Rob Campbell, Tyler Campbell, other Tyler Campbell, but the leader of them, Sean Campbell, easy pit stop, completely in control. He's at the head of the pit lane to make matters even easier for him. Expect a smaller fuel number than anybody else, too. 10.9 seconds in the box. Everybody else has been in there for 12, 13, 14 seconds. Sean Campbell had a 5-second lead, and evidently he was saving fuel to the end, too.
Yeah, but that was not ideal, where he's come out behind one BMW. Will then get some clean air, so I guess beggars cannot be choosers. Lowendick has really closed up on Rector through the course of this traffic that you can see, which has not just lost them time to the 2 that fight for the final steps of the podium in front, but you can tell that Rector's feeling the pressure, lights flashing to try and get some clean air in front.
And these guys are all racing for positions, so, I mean, they do have a reason to get out of the way, but also they're fighting for their own track positions here. They've all pitted. Rector and Lowendick haven't, but I think one of the Lunatic cars backs out there, opens up the door, and I think Justin Rector and Ted Lowendick are going to be in this time, so they shouldn't have to worry about anybody else. Trepanier and Morales are in as well. Campbell didn't actually reach the back of Bonillo.
Lap traffic dive to the lane with those cars fighting for 4th and 5th, and it almost caught them out. Rector and Lowendick able to slow down in time, but I have no doubt that was a nervy moment there as they're almost side by side on pit lane.
And if Ted's been able to do the same fuel magic, I imagine he's running a same or similar setup to Sean Campbell, so if he can pull off a 10.6 second stop here, that should be an easy jump on Rector. You see Trepanier and Morales leaving the pits after slightly longer stops, about 12, 11 seconds for both of them. We wait for Ted, 10.8, there he goes. Easy jump.
Yeah, and Rector almost 2 full seconds slower, now fortunately able to put at least 1 car behind, but that is a big gap that Lowendick will open up courtesy of the traffic over 1.5, and a bit of contact for Rector to deal with as well.
A little bit of pushing and shoving. That was a lapped Porsche that he just said, you know what, you're going off the road, I think. I'm gonna come through anyway. Hopefully the front end of that BMW isn't too crunkled now, because that's 2 cars, I think, over the course of this race that Justin Rector's made contact with. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's much damage on the front end. It looks just fine, but that might just be how that BMW looks normally, and I can't really tell if there's any damage on it. But he's got Mitchell Ian Green under attack either way.
There's a joke somewhere there about the grill and BMWs, but as someone who works with BMW and wants to make sure I stay employed by BMW on occasion, I will steer well clear of it. Let's grab a look at the RaceSpotTV replay machine as Drew Becker in the 215. Just too much speed, too much commitment, wheels in the grass, around she went.
Certified turn 1 moment. This is our Motegi turn 11 this week.
It is.
And that was, we find new ways to spin these Porsches around as well. He got a little bit loose, he tried to correct it, and then ended up driving himself a little bit too wide, and it was actually the grass that spun him around. It was almost a good save. It was almost a good save. He just needed about 3 less corrections there, and he would have been okay. But Drew Becker joins the club, the Turn 1 club. It's not a club you want to be a part of, but I think about half the field is in it.
He needed a Paul Ricard type track with. Here's that moment, Robert Go, who I don't think does much wrong.
Yeah, Robert Goff was just kind of running his line there, and unfortunately gets a little bit pummeled by Rector. We're going to see him come up here, I think, after Becker.
No.
Is that a new incident for Becker?
This is Nick McLaughlin.
Why did you guys paint all your cars exactly the same? You got to change it up for us for next week. Give us some highlights at least.
I'm just saying, yes, the paint scheme is great. Slightly different shades of pink, maybe, or they can have a different base color. Commentators need help because we are not smart people by our nature. Those that cannot do, teach. And I think that says a lot about those that end up commentating. Sean Campbell, 6 seconds clear at the front of the field with less than 10 minutes to go. At this point, he's just going to ride the traffic out and continue to ride 100% winning record in this Precision Racing League.
But we know we can't get ahead of ourselves. We've seen what can happen in the S's. There's a lot of lapped cars coming up. There's a lot of places where other drivers can get bit right ahead of Campbell. He's going to get held up here by, I think that's J.R. Williams, who's about to go a lap down, or that might be his, no, that's David Morse. That's his teammate, David Morse, who goes a lap down. Luckily for Campbell, he has a huge cushion to be able to be very, very patient with these lapped cars. He's got 5.2 seconds back to Trepanier. He can back off just a little bit. He's not racing with one hand, I can assure you, but it's a 32-minute. It looks like he's standing up from that angle. He's confusing me, but yeah, he's taking a little bit of a break on the straight here, and I guess he's earned it.
I'm just trying to figure out what information he has on his screen because different drivers have different preferences. Bottom left, you can see the pedal tray, so he can see exactly how his pedals are working with his inputs. It does look as though his steering wheel indicator on that overlay seems to be a face. We'll ask him about that post-race. He's got a track map in the top right, which is going to be important when it comes to figuring out cycles of pit stops and whatnot. Relative bottom right, I mentioned that earlier, standings top left. All the information you could ever need, I would think. Justin Rector, what's happened to him? He's down to 7th now.
Mitch Green got by him in turn 10. I don't know if it was just a straightforward move with how close Green was. I have to imagine that's all it was. I don't think Rector made another mistake, but Justin's been very, very quick through the S's, unfortunately at the behest of some of the drivers in front of him, but let's see the move for Green. On the outside, under braking, the Porsche was able to be a little bit later on the brakes than the BMW, and it's hard to go around the outside in 10B there, and Rector knew it. He backed out of it, got back in line, and he's going to try and take advantage of maybe some of the straight line speed grunt to the BMW if he's a little bit lower downforce on his setup than Michelin Green is, but it's going to be a struggle because another Porsche, that makes it 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 for Porsche, with one BMW with Sean Dickinson.
Mentioned earlier, of course, but an outgoing Porsche 911 GT3R to be replaced by the 992 variant. Side by side for second. Morales gets in front of the ASR Esports machine of Trepanier, and I have no doubt these two will go back and forth from this point forward, but the question will be for Trepanier, how much jeopardy does he want to put himself in when it comes to the championship? Because Morales and Trepanier came into this one, 1 point splitting the two of them, but both 12, 13 points behind Sean Campbell.
It's a tough ask because these two, I don't want to write off the rest of the season this early, but they might be thinking about second in the championship, not first, with how good Campbell has been. So I think you just got to go for every single move you can make here and hope it all shakes out at the end. Because second is always an unpredictable place in the championship to be. Some drivers who are just consistently running throughout the season, some drivers who maybe win a race and fall back for the rest of the season. It all evens out. It's hard to finish second in the championship, actually. So I think both of these drivers are going to fight entirely and with full power here for this position. There's no reason not to. They both want as many points as possible. It could come back to bite them. They could come out with a 17th, but when you're fighting for second in the championship, that's not that much of a loss.
Well, they're fighting way further back in the field. Vicente Sepulveda in front of Dave Menino, Tommy Bressone, and then the third of the Amplace cars, because it's been an interesting day for some of them. Patrick's in 11th, the first of those AM machines. Turner Schroll's 15th, second in class. And Brett Thurman is running down in 19th overall, but as we saw last week, a bit of attrition and decent pace from these AM drivers, and continue to be, well, not that AM in some ways. They're very much continuing to develop, and that's what these categories, this split class is meant to do, Joey, is to allow drivers, encourage drivers as they grow, as they become faster, to find new competition and join better drivers day in, day out.
And I'm sure some of these AM drivers will be promoted to pro next season. We saw Nick McLaughlin finally get promoted up to pro between last season and this season. Hasn't been going very well for him, but he is certainly worthy of the pro level. And Ryan Patrick, who fought Nick for the championship all season last season, he would certainly be worthy of a promotion once we get to next season as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Or Turner Schroll, for that matter, a driver who was in F3 AM last season, now in GT3 AM. He's fighting with a pro in Keith Bonilla as well, and a hard point by Delta Sport driver. He might be in the Academy team, but I imagine he might be with the big team in the pros next season as well.
Yeah, and I do like that. Oh, he's dragging a cone. He's managed to pick up a cone somewhere along the way. We picked these drivers up as they were coming down through the S's and the lights were flashing, and I have to assume it's likely something happened between the two of them, but I don't think it's going to be too dramatic when we talk about this one. Less than 4 minutes almost to go. 7 seconds the advantage at the front of the field. And for Nick McLaughlin, I mean, yeah, I think the sight of his Porsche 911 tells you the story of his race as Justin Rector comes down on pit lane.
Incident limit.
Hits the incident limit and serves a drive-through penalty as a result.
Yeah, 2 4Xs we saw, and there's only 5 more incident points to play with. You get 13 incident points, you're forced to serve a drive-through. Nick McLaughlin is somehow still on track in that car. I don't know how that's possible. Oh, he's using the club layout to shorten it a little bit, but
cheating.
that's not a car that's driving. He's just trying to bring it back to the pits, and I think about one of those wheels was spinning. He finally gives up, and that is a destroyed car. It looks like he hit every single side of that car. Did he flip?
Yeah, that's what I was assuming, and my timing screen is telling me that Ryan Pucktel had an issue at a similar time. Now, what's going to happen here? So Pucktel rejoins turn 3, looks normal. Now, where's Nick McLaughlin? Okay, so no, 2 separate incidents, but basically 20-odd seconds splits the two of them. McLaughlin's going to, I think, use a little bit too much curb potentially. It's going to... No, that's not the issue.
He looked just fine down through this... Oh, no, he just got...
Wow.
Oh. And that's the biggest hit you can have at Road Atlanta. He just got offline in that last part of the S's. You can do that in the F3 car. You can't do that in the GT3 car. Bam! Just barely got out of the groove, and that is a kilt
I
Porsche.
think he might have a bit of steering damage and a bit of play there, and I think maybe that's what set him up as well, because it looks like it's a bit right-hand down, and he's drifting all the way to the right. Weird one. Maybe McLaughlin can shed some light on what happened to him there, but it's the fight for second that brings our attention to the track for the time being, with just a handful of laps, a handful of opportunities. It's this time Trepanier that goes to the outside to try and stick it the long way around to the chicane. Morales wise to the move, has seen it and done it before, but with 2 laps to go, time is running out to fight for second.
And that's basically your only opportunity to make a move with a driver like Diego Morales. He's not going to be making mistakes into some of the places where you can normally take advantage of a mistake and make a move. So you're going to have to use the orthodox place to go for it at turn 10. Vincent's got to try and stick a little bit closer and hope that he can find a little bit of extra braking power in these last 2 laps. Maybe hope that there's a worse exit through turn 7. But it's hard with Diego Morales in front of you. This is not a guy that makes mistakes. He's always rock solid through turn 5 here. Pretty equal between the two of them. Vincent going a little bit wider, taking a little bit more curb. He's going to peek to the inside into turn 6. He's letting Diego know he's there, but he's not close enough to go for it yet.
I think these are just the seeds of doubt being planted, showing in the mirrors when you're not looking for the move. And now Trepanier, though, maybe trying too hard, runs wide, will check his momentum up through the 1.2 kilometer run out of turn 7 into the braking zone of turn 10. My word, what a fight it's been, and while Sean Campbell will pick up the white flag this time by 7 seconds clear, it was close in qualifying, and this margin of victory may be a little bit unexpected after the 40 minutes of action. Will traffic play a factor with just about 4 kilometers left to go at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta?
It's a few lap cars. I think they're a little bit too far ahead, so unless they start racing side by side, which is exactly what Vincent Trepanier probably wants to give himself a chance, but I don't think they will. I don't think they'll catch them. Up through the hill here, final time completely even for the both of them. Vincent's looking very, very good here. He's got a shot at Diego Morales. He seems to be the quicker of the two. but he can't do what he did last lap. He can't dip it off in the grass at turn 7. That killed his momentum. That killed a very realistic chance into turn 10. Up through turn 5 here for the last time. Again, it's better for Vincent, but he's got to nail turn 7 here. That's key.
They've actually closed on Sean Campbell, who is stuck behind lap traffic, but knowing the position he's in has not really pushed the issue too much. This is the crucial corner though, tighter than 90 degrees, both cars running tidily. It's Porsche versus Porsche power down this back straightaway for the very final time. What a fight it's been so far. It comes down to this final drag race into the braking zone of turn 10. While they fight, at the front of the field, it's Sean Campbell looking to extend the 100% record. Trepanier throws the look. Morales gives him room and takes the position. Great racing behind, as while Sean Campbell will take victory here at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta in a chaotic day filled with carnage and chaos. All 3 of our podium sitters ran away from those behind.
And the top 3 in the championship, all still the top 3 in the championship. All 3 of those drivers on the podium here, and that's a threesome that we're going to see on the podium quite a few times this season. Campbell was untouchable, though. Morales and Trepanier just fighting each other, extending that gap at the end. But still, Sean Campbell would have won that race either way, I think, even with a slightly artificially inflated gap.
Ooh.
Everybody's still coming to the line. Turner Schroll with a pro.
Vanilla on the outside and will have to make room as Turner Schroll with a great run in the AM class will fight his way up to 13th at the death. Plenty of these little drag races and battles to the line just inside of the top 20. Mark McDonald holding up Tommy Bressone and Brett Thurman. What a race, what a day. And I always enjoy when you head to this Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It always seems to put on a show, and well, Sean Campbell has decided to find somewhere comfortable to park up and watch.
Yeah, he's hiding from your cameras, Lee. He hides from us in the interviews. But hopefully we get to talk to him. Hopefully we get to talk to Ted Lowendick. He's just hanging out over there. They're getting those Oh, there comes Ted.
Here we go.
Isaac Snyder, get ready. You're going to be taking some screenshots, buddy.
It's been a roller coaster for Sean Campbell, not just here in this Precision Racing League, but now a 3-time winner. Oh, we missed him. Sean Campbell popped his head in for a moment, but we missed him on the broadcast.
Boo.
Boo, indeed. 3 wins in a row in the Lionheart Retro Series. Lotus 79, where he's won on both the road courses and the ovals and bested some of the best that iRacing has to offer. A driver that's going to be competing for Rocket Simsport, Jensen Button's sim racing team in the Le Mans Virtual Series this coming winter. It's looking great. It's looking promising if you are Sean Campbell as he works on his sim racing journey. Let's grab a look at those race results. 31 laps, slightly longer, of course, than the sprint race, the fixed race rather, earlier tonight, but a margin of victory that belays the comfortability that Sean Campbell enjoyed. Just 6 seconds the margin back to Diego Morales, who grabbed second in front of Vincent Trepanier. Great fight between them, but very much inside this top 10. You look top to bottom. Porsche and then some BMWs. Sean Dickinson, the best of the BMWs, in fourth, with Ted Lowendick in fifth, getting in front to Mitchell Ian Green, J.R. Williams, Tom Fain, Gonzalo Cortez taking advantage of Justin Rector's drive-through penalty to grab an extra position, while Ryan Patrick in the AM class takes victory in class, but also a top 10 overall. Thomas Dunn and Martin Crisp 11th and 12th in front of Turner Schroll. He bullied his way past Keith Bonilla on the way to the line, grabbing 13th overall. Justin Rector recovers 15th with Vicente Sepulveda, 16th Dave Menino, Mark McDonald and Tommy Bressone, the best of the pros then inside of the top 20. Brett Thurman, the third of your AMs, finishes 20th overall. Rob Campbell, Arnaud Guinness, Pete Newhook, who looked good in early stages of this session, but finishes down in 23rd in overall, 5th in class. Fonseca, victorious a week ago, finishes behind him with Roth, Kalin, Pucktel, Rutherford, Dubé, and Reens, the top 30. We'll cycle through the rest of the names, but my word, Joey, our voices have taken a beating. I definitely need a bit of a break after this one. I did not expect this much chaos to be thrown up in Georgia.
I kind of did. But at the same time, I kind of didn't, because Road Atlanta is always unpredictable. I didn't expect Turn 1 to be the death zone like it was. I expected far more trouble in Turn 5, and there was, but yeah, that was just a tricky race, and we actually had the exact same amount of drivers on the lead lap as we did in the fixed race, so it all evened out again, even with a bigger field. looks like we've got all of our AM podium sitters. No surprise to see Sean Campbell not here, but Diego and Vincent, we're waiting on you guys.
Yeah, we'll grab a word with the drivers in a couple of moments' time as we work through some of our post-race coverage. Going to be very exciting next week to head to the left coast of the US and to the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. While we wait, I think then, Joey, start with the AM class, and you'll be speaking with Ryan Patrick, who took advantage of some of the chaos to come out on top in AM.
Ryan Patrick finally back to the ways of last season. Some bad luck to kick it off for those first 2 weeks, but P1, P10 overall as well. You got to be pretty happy with that.
Thanks, Joey. Yeah, very happy, man. It's a good week. It's one of my favorite tracks, kind of like Watkins last week. I hate I missed Road America's week 1 this season, but happy to be back, getting after it.
So what clicks so well here? Because it was a tough race. You could see the attrition. You saw the amount of drivers who spun. You saw your teammates that were having a little bit of trouble. But what is it about this place that makes it so hard to solve? And what clicks for you?
Just backing up the braking's what I figured out. Just not trying to push it past its limit. Smooth is fast here, for sure.
I think that also applies to where we go next week. Laguna Seca, it's got to be a similar place to this in some ways. Are you looking forward to Laguna next week to go for your second win of the season?
Looking forward to it, man. I hope so. They're both pretty flowing tracks. You can get in a rhythm and hopefully have some pace, man. Thank you, guys.
Always
Breast Cancer Awareness Month, by the way. I don't know if you saw the liveries.
Yep, your old teammate Nick pointed us out to them, and we certainly saw a lot of them tonight. But it's always good to raise that awareness. And congrats to you on your win, and we hope to see you next week.
Thanks, Joey. Have a good man.
Ryan Patrick, P1, and then Turner Schroll is here to talk to us, Arjuna.
Yeah, it was a good drive for him as well, with another driver being able to stay out of the chaos. Joey Tebben standing by with second place in AM, Turner Schroll.
Turner, another driver, just like with Ryan, you've had some bad luck to start the season. You had a couple of good finishes, but finally where we'd expect you to be on the podium.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Joey. It's been a challenge in qualifying for some reason, just not able to get the car, position where we want it to be. But, ultimately, hats off to Ryan. I mean, the guy had amazing pace, and it was just an awesome race. And, happy to be back on the podium and happy to be in this series. It's a lot of fun.
Looks like it's basically Porsche versus BMW now. There's a couple stragglers. There's a couple of Mercedes and Ferraris and Audis that are still in the field, but it's a choice between the Porsche and the BMW. Why are you going with BMW?
Born and bred BMW. I'll die BMW. So I chose that car before it was the hot thing, and definitely never going to be a Porsche Cup guy. So, I'll stick with it. I think it's a good one for the rest of the season. It's
kind of impossible to predict the rest of this championship because a lot of you AM guys have been so evenly matched. But with 7 weeks to go, a lot of different tracks, 2 new tracks. What are you thinking right now? What are you thinking championship wise?
I couldn't be more excited for it to be this close. I mean, that's what this is all about. That's why it's a huge field, and I think it's going to be a nail biter, and not just between 1 and 2 guys. It's going to be a pretty open field here. So couldn't be more excited to share it with these guys for sure.
All right, well, congrats on the podium again. And before we kick you out, go shout out those Hardpoint by Delta Sport guys.
Yeah, really excited for joining the team there on the academy side. Moving on from Ace Racing, and bringing a couple guys with us. So really excited for the step up there. It's been nothing but great success so far, and excited to obviously go for Petit Le Mans this weekend as well. So yeah, shout out to the Hardpoint boys, and thanks for having me.
All right, we will see you next week at Laguna Seca, and we wish good luck.
Thanks. Take care.
Turner Schroll, P2 tonight. Arjuna. Still a few drivers sticking around, if I can say my words correctly, but back to you.
Yeah, well, it doesn't look like we're getting any of your pro-class podium sitters today, so instead we'll talk to Ted Lowendick, who did indeed have a rather interesting day. Had to fight his way up 4 positions to grab a top 5 spot, but Ted, as we reflect on this race, it's a good day for you and the team in terms of points as well, not just with Sean grabbing victory, but with you able to back him up and work your way forward.
Yeah, I'm just happy I was able to help him out with points because the last couple of weeks have been pretty bad. So congrats to Sean on the win. He's out of this world in terms of pace. He wanted to let me tell you guys that he did want to say something, but that it was just the word something. In classic Sean. So
I'm dragging you out of the booth, Ted. I'm not sitting here for that.
In terms of this race, I across both the races tonight. We had plenty of chaos. Just how difficult is this car, especially with the Porsche, right? With the engine in the rear and the way the weight transfers, we saw plenty of issues up through turn 1.
Yeah, turn 1, so I don't really like this track.
Whoa, now I'm going to drag you out.
I know. It gets worse.
So turn 1 is a lot of death, right? Because the car just wants to keep spinning around. If you get on the throttle too soon and you're not close enough to the curb, there's like a little spot in the middle of the corner where the back of the car is just going to come around on you. And then turn 2, I think I've said a prayer every time I was coming into it just to make sure I got it right. And then, of course, everybody knows turn 5. Just the car understeers, it hits the curb, you're now in the wall, and then if you survive all of that mess and you get to turn 6 and you don't die there, then you might be able to put together a good lap.
Then you still have to do turn 7 as well, right? Because if you get that wrong, it's 1.2 kilometers of pain. The rest of the season, me and Joey have been very excited about this one. Laguna Seca up next, but then a bit of a European swing, ending with Roscogan, a week at a new track that you cannot drop. There's plenty of jeopardy still to come in this championship.
Yep. It's going to be a fun one.
Shout-outs before we let you go, because you've been very clever and got your sponsors, a little bit of airtime on the background there.
Well, I guess it's over here. Just thank you to all the sponsors for the league, Advanced Sim Racing. If you're looking for a butt kicker over here, I keep pointing to the wrong shoulder. You can get a butt kicker on Advanced Sim Racing's website, so go ahead and check them out. You guys as well for always putting on a good stream, and then of course everybody at RSR Esport for just being awesome and fast and making everybody better.
Great to chat to some drivers in our post-race coverage. That was Ted Lowendick, who finished 5th in the pro class. Unfortunately, no word with Sean Campbell other than the word something, and Diego Morales and Vincent Trepanier. But they put on a fun show for us tonight, and I have no doubt that 7 days from today, when we get up and we do it again, it will be similarly entertaining as we head to the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Of course, it will come up after the 35 minutes of GT3 fixed racing, but this is one where if drivers didn't enjoy tonight, Joey, I don't think it's getting any better anytime soon.
Yeah, if drivers had trouble at a turn 1 here, get ready for turn 1 kind of multiplied 3 times at different places at Laguna Seca and kind of geometrically flipped, and sometimes you're doing turn 1 downwards, sometimes you're doing it upwards. It's a tough old track. It's tough to pass, but we always look forward to Laguna Seca. Even with that, it's always a love-hate relationship with Laguna, and what was it tonight? 48 drivers in the pro field tonight, 46 drivers in the fixed field. Well, not 100 drivers. Add that up, bring them onto Laguna Seca.
Yeah, I've started to now realize just how crazy these events are from losing my voice standpoint, because that does tend to happen quite a lot. What an interesting run that we've got as well to build up to the end of this calendar year. November 22nd will be, of course, that final round of this championship, and as we build to yet another iRacing build week, plenty of excitement. But final thoughts then before we say goodbye, Joey, because I mean, I've had a ball with you these last couple of weeks, but I feel like we're only getting more excited and more entertaining from here on forward.
There will be a day where somebody beats Sean Campbell to a victory in the Precision Racing League. There will be a championship winner decided in the AM class in the GT3 Sprint Series somehow, and the GT3 Fixed Series as well. That champion is completely undecided as well. So it is going to be a crazy, crazy season. Lots of storylines to look forward to, and also more PRL action tomorrow night. Jeff Evans and Mark Kalin and Robert Goff from this series, they'll be back for a whole new discipline tomorrow night.
There's basically racing every night on the week here live on VCO Esports with this Precision Racing League. So make sure you stick around and follow us on Twitch and subscribe to us on YouTube, because 5 nights a week we have great racing across all the different disciplines. For now, though, it is time to say goodbye. And what a crazy round it was. We expected drama from the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta 25 years on from the first time Petit Le Mans was ran, but we got some more drama than was expected. Plenty of chaos, and for Michael Terrafino in the GT3 Fixed Series, heartbreak at the very end of the race, but 2 dominant winners overall in both races. And in AM, it's Ryan Patrick who will walk away with a big smile. For everyone at RaceSpotTV, for Joey Tebben, for myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for your company. Once again on a Tuesday night, we'll be back here, same time, same place, from the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for round 4 in this 2022 Season 4 journey of Tuesday night GT3s. Tomorrow, the Truck Series. Thursday, Formula 4 and Formula 3 double header action. For now, we bid you farewell from the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. We'll see you next time. So long and goodbye.